While most of the drivers seem to be prone to mistakes, bad luck, and bad timing, only one has shown an almost unstoppable dominance. Jason Gerard in the LMP2 class has learned to adapt to the craziness of the new mix of the cars. And now that we've passed the halfway point, he looks to be one of the few shoo-ins to take the crown. Everything else has proven wildly unstable in typical Autobahn fashion. Will an extra-long race at Le Mans shake things up even more? We'll find out soon as we get ready to watch Round 8 of the Autobahn Motorcar Group's Sportscar Challenge. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth covering the LMP1 and LMP2 classes is Bill Soup Zahn. Keeping us up on the GTE class is Taylor Burris. Behind the scenes is our director Sean Crackers Ambrose, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Taylor, we look out over the Circuit de la Sarthe, and though our race fans have hopefully heard of this place, those who aren't petrol heads may not know as much about this French track.
Of course, and welcome everyone to Le Mans. This track is by far the granddaddy of all sports car racing. Located in Le Mans, France, this 8.4 mile or 13.6 kilometer track opened in 1923 and is the home of the 24 Hours of Le Mans. This track has provided some of the most historic battles in all of motorsports. Who could forget events such as Ford and Ferrari battling in the 60s and the domination of Porsche in the 70s and 80s? To give you, the fans, opportunity to see what it is like to drive on this historic track, let us hop on board for a GSRC lap guide.
All right, we've got Amjad Yaman of the GSRC 4 GT, so let's do a lap around Le Mans. Down the pit straight, you'll be picking up speed out of the relatively slow final chicane. Because of that, by the time you reach the Dunlop curve, even though it should be flat out, the fact that the racing line takes you off to the right means you'll need a little lift. Then you'll be braking hard for the Dunlop chicane. Those tall yellow curbs can badly damage the car, so try not to cut into the apexes too far. From there, you head under the Dunlop bridge and swing into the Chapel Rundown. Hug the car to the right side because you'll want a nice wide entry into the Forest S's. Watch out for the hump coming off the right-hander because you can lose the car by being too greedy on the power. Then you've got just a brief moment before you hit Tertre Rouge. This is one of the most important turns on the track because if you're slow off the corner, it'll hurt you all the way down the first bit of the Mulsanne. The chicanes break it up, of course, but this is still the fastest one of the three parts. Skipping ahead to the Forza chicane, picking your braking point will be tough but critical. Don't go outside of those cones to the left because you'll get an automatic slowdown penalty for abusing the track limits. Setting up a good exit would be wise because once again, we get dumped onto the Mulsanne. But this time, instead of staying to the left, you head to the right side since the Michelin chicane is the same but mirrored. And as you'd expect, you'd approach it the same. Sacrifice a bit mid-corner to ensure a nice clean launch. Finally, at the end of this notorious stretch of road is the Mulsanne corner. The kinked braking means it'll be tricky to get the car slowed up from such a high speed. And while the gravel on the outside can keep you from plowing into the tires, it also slows you down a ton, and that's really bad news since you've got another long straight ahead. Yet again, it ends with some devilishly tough braking at Indianapolis. Brake hard, get the car planted, and try your best not to let it swerve into the Armco. Quickly, you've got to bring it across the track to line up Barnage. This is one of the slowest and most frustrating turns on the circuit, but avoid understeering into the wall to the outside, which narrows up and makes for a dangerous exit. After a slightly shorter stretch, you come up to the Porsche curves. They start fast and tighten as you go. Bridge with that big blue wall can be especially precarious, yet require you to get pretty close to help carry your speed. Karting forces itself to be a compromise because you'd like to let the car track out, but it's best to stay tight to the right to open up the final left-hander. It'll be really bad, too, if you exit too wide, because this is another monitored spot that delivers slowdown penalties. Maison Blanche is a flat-out nothing chicane, and now you're coming up to the pits. Make sure to practice how late you can brake on the way in to ensure you don't get penalized for an unsafe pit entry during the race. But for now, we're slowing up for the Ford chicane. Try not to take too much of that red curb and then power your way out of there towards the line. Hopefully, if you've kept it all together, you've now finished a lap around the mall. People talk about the length of places like the ring, but people often forget that Le Mans is incredibly long. You see, that was a truncated lap guide, and it still took a while. Knowing that, let's go to Bill and hope that you don't have too big of a metaphor to extend the points update this month, or this week.
Nope, just like Joe Friday, it's going to be just the facts, man. Here we go. We're going to start with Jason Deep Freeze DeVries. His last 5 races, how about 3 wins and 2 seconds? That's why he has that comfortable lead over Cy Andre. You know, Andrew got his first win last time out. Robert Tinsey talked about winning. Well, he hasn't seen victory circle since the season opener. He sits in that tie with Andre. Go down to 4th position. Daniel Gralty, he's averaging just a skosh over a 4th place finish this season. Mike Young has a pair of seconds, but also an 11th and a no-show. Let's go ahead and look at LMP2s, and there you're going to find what Joe talked about, Jason Girard. Now, look, if you drop a 12th place and a no-show, you know what his total is there? It's the sum of 5 wins. That's right, he has 5 wins. Other than the 12th and the one race that he missed, it's nothing but checkered flag for him. How about Scott McGarvey? He's winless, but has yet to miss a podium. Billy Smith, well, he had a win in round 2 at Sebring. After dropping a 13th and 14th, nothing worse than a 5th for Ross Booth. Booth having a good run, even though he falls a spot. Mark Schindell's best result so far was a 3rd at Motorsport. Let's go down and look at the GTE standings. And there, hey, new leader, as it is Stephen McGarvey. He has got his 1st and 2nd the last 2 times out. Paul Darling has not won since round 1. A 12th at Interlago prevented, that keeps Bradley Haley from getting any closer as he sits in 3rd position. Only a few points up on Alex Simonek, who, after a slow start, has 3 wins. Dean Moll's best result was a 4th. Finally, we go to the AM Championship, and once again, we see the top position swap. Paul Lindsay was best in class with the 7th last time out. In contrast, Kevin Santana, wow, he had an 18th, and those 2 swap places. Hey, welcome to the overlay Matt Owens as he gets in there 53 points back. Finally, to the team championship, and look at this. There is no change. All the teams hold station. Only 1 individual win amongst all the guys in SRN Motorsports Black. Daniel Gralty, Scott McGarvey, and Ryan Huff. They are truly a team effort. All right, Joe, we're getting close to wrapping this season up. Things are starting to fall into place.
Yep, and this race certainly could make a difference. As we mentioned, it is a bit unique, so why don't we go over the race details in case you're wondering what's different about it. As we mentioned, we are in round 8, so we're now past halfway, but look at the race distance. All other races are either 90 or 60 minutes, so this will be new territory for these drivers on strategy. Some have raced this distance in this series before, but it's hard to bank on the experience there since the cars are different since that time. The setups are open on all the cars out there, and they have, of course, a restricted fuel cell, which means they will make more pit stops than you'd expect than they do, of course, in the real world Le Mans. The incident cap is at 48 today. They've upped it because it's that little bit longer. Normally it's either 36 or 24, so they get a little bit more leeway, although we don't expect many cars to be able to rack that many up because they have very few places where you can get an off track here at Le Mans. Now, staying on track will be key to victory, and for the rest of those keys, why don't we go over to Taylor for the keys to the race today here at Circuit de la Sarthe.
Of course, and in fact, keeping it on the track will be key. Of course, you're using the throttle here 85% of the time where you'll be on it full throttle. So, of course, drivers are going to need to be focused on making sure that they hit their braking points when they attack certain corners, such as the chicanes on the Mulsanne, as well as Mulsanne Corner, Arnage, and Indianapolis. Many different points of passing opportunities for these drivers. So drivers will need to learn how to pick and choose when that opportunity is to strike, especially when it comes to LMP cars passing GTE cars when getting into those technical sections. Of course, Le Mans is such a very big track, this will be also an excellent opportunity for drivers to strategize on when to pit their cars. We're expecting about 3 pit stops for these cars due to the fact of the shortened fuel distance for these cars. So keep an eye on who decides to pit early, as well as who decides to hold out as long as they can, especially those in the LMP1 class who have that hybrid system to where they can go a little bit further than the rest of the field. And of course, also, there will be issues on the track, especially amongst lap traffic. These GTE drivers, LMP2 drivers will need to keep focused on where these LMP1 cars are coming up upon them in order to know when and when not to hold them up a little bit. Certain areas, drivers need to make sure that they hit their marks and let these faster cars go by so as not to cause serious incidents for the other competitors. So Joe, this is going to be quite the interesting race to watch. I'm looking forward to it. This is by far one of my most favorite tracks in the world.
It is a legendary circuit. It is a monstrous circuit. You can see we're letting the last of qualifying work its way through. All three of the classes have had their official qualifying. These are the stragglers who could not make it to their official class qualifying and are running in mixed class traffic. Not as big of an issue on as long of a track as it is here in Le Mans. Brandon Garcia just going to see if he can get a lap in here. He's got one on the board at a 3:20.1, which is good enough for 6th, as his second one does not look like it counts, unfortunately. Sounds like David Sockrider also out there in the LMP2s running, as he is, looks like along the Mulsanne right now. We ride on board. You know, Bill, you covered the championships and you talked about Andre finally getting his first win. And as much as we make about, well, you know, the season's coming to an end, it's not, I mean, it's still got halfway to go, obviously. So, I mean, do you think it's still enough time for him to try and turn things around and maybe make a run for the championship?
Yes, we get to the second half of the season, probably a better way to put that. We get an idea of what's going on. Yeah, I think Andrew has a legitimate chance to get there because he's had such a slow start. The guy that I really wonder about, and if you're not a fan of last season, if you weren't following us, you probably think I'm crazy, but is there enough time for Jeffrey Ooms in the GTEs to make a run out? He's so far back. But Joe, he was so good last season.
Yeah, but we've suddenly seen Simonic really get on a tear, so I think he'll be hard-pressed to try and make an impression unless he can really pull one over on Alex. Now, we do have a little bit of an update on the weather out here, which is thankfully pretty good conditions. It is 87 degrees, but only 95 out on the track, which means it's not going to be too hot, should be pretty grippy, and 6-mile-an-hour winds really shouldn't affect the drivers too badly. And speaking of Ooms and the GTE drivers, one thing that I kind of noticed looking through the points and looking through the results, Taylor, is Alex Ellis. Now, he can be pretty fast. He tends to vie for wins, but he's really not in the points battle. So is he a worry for the rest of the drivers to maybe take points away from them when they might need them at their most critical?
That is a possibility. Of course, we do know Alex had that win at Road America a couple of weeks ago, or a few weeks ago, so he is competitive at certain points. Now, though, he has missed some races during this season. So as we approach halfway through the season now, and here at Le Mans is always an unknown race. You never know what's going to happen with these drivers, even though it's such a big track. This is an opportunity to where drivers can maybe make strategies, which I think Alex Ellis can. And of course, with the team now under a new manufacturer as well with Ferrari, you never know, that could be a big help for them. Ferraris were quite good here back in previous updates here at Le Mans, so we'll have to keep an eye on this team with the Wyvern team.
Looking over at the LMP2s, we were talking about the dominance of Gerard, Bill, and with McGarvey giving chase on that, I kind of keep half an eye on him because he's not finished off the podium at all. He's taken a win, and he's incredibly consistent. So even though Gerard has been dominant, if he slips up, it's not going to take a whole lot for McGarvey to overtake him in points.
Yeah, and I don't want to speak this into reality, but we've been watching Jason Gerard long enough to know that he's not immune to making a mistake. Yes, he could get a bad result, and Scott McGarvey just doing what he does, just going out there, getting podium after podium after podium. That's the way he's going to, and he got the win. Yeah, I think he's in a real shot to get this championship. I don't think we know anything yet, other than we know who is in the hunt. You know, Joe, I want to make a quick correction. Andy and Jackson in the graphics department, they had 48 for the incident cap. They kind of had to make an assumption there because they really weren't sure of the length of this race at the very last minute. It's actually 42. So I still don't think that's going to be an issue here. But there's 6 extra less points you guys get to play around with.
We all should have known it was 42. That's the answer to life, the universe, and everything. All the nerds get what I'm saying, but everybody else is left scratching their head. 20 seconds left here in the qualifying, and Alex Ellis is nowhere near to try and complete this lap. So I think at this point, he's just doing a little bit of warm-up and checking to see if anybody else is able to try and finish this, and it doesn't look like that's the case. So the grid is set. Let's go through our qualifying. And as I say that, I forgot that you do get a little bit of time to finish things up here at the end. But why don't we take our time just going through the qualifying then? And Andra is going to be on the pole here today. So his efforts to try and move himself up in the championship are looking good. Dennis Savretic has returned. His schedule has allowed him to get out on track. Let's see what Dennis can do from the front row. Jason DeVries. He's probably been one of the more consistent drivers that we've seen, but just like Gerard, he is not immune from making a mistake here or there this season, and it has cost him, but he has had his dominant streaks. He'll start from third. Robert Tinsey, as Bill mentioned, hasn't won since round one. I mean, he's not out of the championship, but he still has yet to find speed. He is well down the order in terms of qualifying time for this race with a 3:19.4. That is more than 2 seconds away from the pole in fourth. Brandon Guaracia starts from fifth place, with Mike Young starting in sixth. John Ulmer still struggling a little bit. The big cheese has yet to come to terms with the LMP1s. I kind of wonder if maybe next season he might switch to the LMP2s, where we know he's fast. We'll start from seventh place. Daniel Gralti. He usually finds himself a little bit farther up at the end of the race. He will be starting from eighth, but don't be surprised to see him on a podium when all is said and done. Then rounding out the last of our LMP1s that have taken a qualifying time, it's Robert Kansian starting ninth. He will be followed by two drivers that did not get a time in, Lionel Duprat and Jesse Lyon. Let's go to Bill for the LMP2s.
They just fall up on those LMP1s, just what they need. A little more talent up there with Dennis and Reddick coming back in there. Man, the big names in those LMP1s. All right, well, let's you point the leaders. 1, 2, 3, Jason Girard. Then comes Scott McGarvey, and then Billy Smith II. Billy been around for a long time. When GSRC first got on the scene, he was dominating in the caddies back when they had the GTD class. How about Carter Kundinger? He sits in fourth. Now, the next row is going to be Mark Schindel and Sheldon Rosenbaum. Rosenbaum has a career win already. James Stacy at 16th overall. Ross Booth sits well up in the point standing, far down the list today. But don't worry, he's got 2 hours for him to just ease his way up through the field, find himself a top 5 before the night's done. Over from Championship Motorsports coming up, racing for Puffin Motorsports. Jason London, good to see him here with Sean Reese. Chris Pence, and then David Sockrider is the last LMP2 driver. There is one more. Alan Hasebeck did not put in a qualifying time. Okay, let's throw over to Taylor and see what he's got for those GTDs.
Well, he's back, ladies and gentlemen. Jeffrey Ooms in a 4GT sets the fastest time in the GTE category, starting on pole. Right beside him will be Alex Simonik in the 254. Behind them in the second row will be Stephen McGarvey and Bradley Haley, followed by Paul Darling and Alex Ellis in a Ferrari. He'll be starting 27th overall. Behind them in 28th and 29th will be Ryan Huff and Dave Hill, followed by Paul Lindsay, your points leader in the GTE AM category, starting in 30th, alongside Giuliano Romagnolo. Behind them will be Dean Mull and Emmanuel Igiri in 32nd and 33rd, followed by Leif Peterson and Sheldon Woloshin in 34th and 35th. Samuel Scott and Dale Green will start in 36th and 37th overall. Behind Mark Kradowski and Tim McLeish will be 38th and 39th. Matt Owens and Robert Shalenko will be 40th and 41st, and Christopher Sherburne will start 42nd, with Dallas Pataska and Kevin Santana not setting a time in the GTE category.
There is your starting grid here for round 8 in the Autobahn Motorcar Group Sports Car Challenge. They're just getting a few instructions from race control now on what to expect here at the start. Thankfully, if you're worried about the pace lap, we do not have to run a full pace lap here at Le Mans. They'll start just before Maison Blanche. So as we wait for the clock to tick down, the drivers are going to grid up. We got a little bit of time to try and figure out who we want to pick. Bill, you can mull this one over. Who do you think is going to win in your classes?
I can mull the top one over much at all. As much I'd like to go with the pole sitter, Cy Andra, coming off that win, I really like Dennis Sevretti coming back on the scene. That's where I would put my money if I had a choice. We go down to the LMP2s. Yeah, I know you want to say Gerard, but he can't win them all, right? He's got 5. He's not going to get another one. Scott just got one. It's got to be time for the old timer, Billy Smith, to go ahead and get a win here. It's going to take 2 hours. That old age is going to come in handy. It takes somebody who can be patient. And when you're older, you've lived more years, you know how to be patient. So that's what I'm going to say on that one. What do you think, Taylor?
Well, in the GTE Pro category, you can't go wrong with Jeffrey Ooms by how fast he was in practice and in qualifying, by almost a second in qualifying, beating Alex Simonik. And then in the GTE AM category, as far as drivers who will do well in that, you can't go wrong with Paul Lindsay. He's been doing quite well this season, but of course, you can't go wrong with the consistency of Kevin Santana. So those are the guys I'll be looking forward to watching here tonight.
Now the cars are starting to line up on the grid. Got a little bit of time before that roof pace car takes off, and this is one of the few tracks where I think traffic won't be as big of an issue, but we still have a pretty big field out there with 47 cars on track. So it'll need all that space to go and spread out. You can see the multiple makes we have there in the GTE class, as we were looking at 2 of the Ferraris. Of course, they also have the Porsches and the Fords competing there. And then in the LMP1s, they do have Porsches and the Porsche prototype and the Audi. And I'm trying to see if anybody actually is racing the Audi. I think it is all Porsches, no Audis. So just a single make, unfortunately, up there in the prototypes, as we wait for them to get ready. And I was wrong. It is actually before the Porsche curves that they get lined up there. I thought it was Maison Blanche that they line up near, but they got a little bit more running before they get to the green flag. 120 minutes here, so fuel's going to be a big talking point. And Bill, yeah, go ahead.
I'm not sure we're going to know pace. I'm going to have to wait a while, at least maybe the first 30 minutes, before I can see if these guys are racing full speed or if they're just trying to manage a fuel stint.
Yeah, I mean, we have gotten to witness the hybrids race here, these LMP1s race at Le Mans, when we covered the Pack Majors doing, well, the Majors, I should say, doing their 24-hour race, but that was with a full fuel tank. Yep. This is slightly less, so I don't know if that really changes the game enough. Obviously, the other cars will have to do it the old-fashioned way, with a little bit of lift and coast. So they've now taken off and are heading towards the first of the Porsche curves. One of the trickier places, one of the places where the traffic, Taylor, could actually trip you up, and especially between the fastest class of the LMP1s in your class, those GTEs.
Yeah, drivers are going to be really alert and focused when that lap traffic comes involved, so our GTE drivers have to keep their heads up, listen to their spotters, as well as keep an eye on the rear view mirror when those LMP1 cars come, because the LMP1 cars really don't have a whole lot of checkup when it comes up on those small cars. They usually just try their best to get around them as best as they can.
Yep. And this track is not particularly wide either, so they've got to be careful about if there's a battle, especially a side-by-side battle happening in front of them, whether or not it's worth the risk to try and go by both of those cars. As the flyover now takes place, the traditional flyover with the tricolor getting shown here. If they'll reach the front stretch, usually they've reached it by now. I guess they flew a little bit too high, did the Jets. Oh, there we go. There we go. Now they're coming.
Okay. I thought they were gone before we heard them.
Not quite that fast. There we go. Beautiful sights. But the roof pace car has just peeled into the pit lane, which gives control to Cy Andra. And they have the tricky proposition of weaving their way through these chicanes as they get the green flag. Cy Andra is off like a shot. And unfortunately, our second place qualifier, Dennis Savretic, did not get a good jump as Jason DeVries has already passed him. They head down to the Dunlop curve and break for the chicane. They're already starting to get single file mostly through this small LMP1 field. Let's go back to the LMP2s.
And we get Jason Gerard does a great job out of the chicane. He holds up a horrible start from Scott McGarvey as he is gobbled up on one side from Billy Smith. Carter Kundinger gets him. McGarvey back into fourth. There is a battle for fifth. That's Rosenblum trying to break in there. Schindel is going to get fifth. And they touch, and around goes McGarvey, and he gets into it with Rosenblum. We got a mess. Taylor, what's going on with you?
Jeffrey Ooms gets a nice clean start. Into the lead he goes, but Stephen McGarvey's going to go on the outside of Alex Amana into the Dunlop chicane. They have to worry about that LMP2 wreck going on up in front of them. But right now, side by side between Paul Darling and Alex Ellis as they come out of the Dunlop chicane and under the Dunlop bridge. Joe?
Yep, they were able to take off Sean Reese, the other one in that LMP2 class involved. The only one that seemed a little bit messy. GTE cars look pretty good through that start. See them already in the slowest of the classes, getting ready to head onto the Mulsanne Straight. In the meantime, Cy Andra is up to the Michelin chicane. He has pulled himself a handy little gap over Dennis Savretic by nearly a second and a half, and they're halfway through this first lap. So that is boding well for the last round's winner.
Just to follow up on your runner-up position in the LMP2s and the points, Scott McGarvey, he's taken a tow right into the very first corner. Mark Schindel put a nose in there. Remember, McGarvey had a horrible start. Fell way back, and Schindel was trying to get that spot as well. They get together. McGarvey's had a very bad beginning.
We take a glance at that replay, and most of the cars at this point are just screaming their way down the Mulsanne. Let's see if we can figure out exactly how this broke out. Found himself a little bit swamped.
There's the yellow car is Schindel.
Yeah, you can see almost immediately cars start to pop out and try to work their way around the slow McGarvey. So
and
watch it from above.
Schindel's going to dive that car in there, get a nose in. McGarvey doesn't see him, comes around, and then Rosenbaum collects him.
Rosenbaum really had nowhere to go. With cars all around, you just kind of have to make a split-second decision, and fortunately, he just couldn't avoid the spinning car, our second-place driver in the championship. We're back up at the front live here with our GTE leader, Jeffrey Ooms, and Simonic getting chase, but not like he's all that interested in passing.
No, he's actually just lagging behind a little bit, utilizing the slipstream, which will be a factor, especially down the Mulsanne Straight before they get to the chicanes. As they make their way through Indianapolis into Arnage, Ooms gets a little bit off, so he's got to be careful. That was a close call as they head down into Arnage. This is one of the slowest corners that the drivers will be facing here today. Down onto the brakes and now back up as they make their way towards the Porsche curves. It is still Ooms, Simonic, and McGarvey, your top three.
And indeed, it's actually a four-car breakaway. Haley is behind those three, trying to make sure that he can get with these guys, maybe get himself a win for the first time this season. These guys now hitting the Porsche curves, which is mostly single file. Let's go back to Bill and the LMP1s, because it sounds like we got a little bit of battle with Mike Young.
Well, I thought Mike Young, he made a mistake. He was right on the back of Brandon Garcia. Made a horrible mistake, lost a ton of time, fell back into the clutches of Volvo. They race 4th, 5th, and 6th right now. Not as tight as it was a while ago as the LMP1 start to spread out a little bit. Garcia actually coming up on Tinsey now.
Yeah, in fact, that is our closest fight in that field. Although Dennis Savretic is also closing in on Andra, and I think that's being helped slightly by the draft. We're looking on Tinsey's car backwards at Garcia. All of them on the Mulsanne Straight at the moment, and they break for the Michelin chicane. No position changes between these top four, which are now paired up. back in.
This is Billy Smith has pulled right up onto the back of our LMP1 leader, Jason Girard. I told you the old guy was going to be good today.
Oh.
He had a nice toe down the Muslim tree.
But he just got a cut course penalty. Oh, no, excuse me. No, that was an LMP1 car going by.
Michael DePratt, yeah.
Excuse me. Go ahead.
Went by him so fast, made it look like he was serving a penalty, didn't it? Yeah. That was DePratt who had a bad start.
Get a look on Simonic. I believe he might have also gotten a cut course penalty because he just dropped all the way to 5th position down the Mulsanne.
In fact, he's still serving it. He is going incredibly slow, continuing to fall down to 6, and there the bleeding finally stops.
That's one of the biggest issues that you have to face, especially going to Terre Rouge, that it's going to be cutting the course through that section before you get to Mulsanne. And due to the fact it's flat out through that section, you will lose a lot of time and positions.
Especially this early in the race when they are bunched up so closely. He's trying to gain on Paul Darling right now, and he's got a pretty good run. Does he dare stick his nose out? Yes, he does. But he's not close enough to try and outbrake Paul. To stay in line, Paul in 5th, Simonic 6th, as they come out of Michelin.
This is a great fight here with Sockrider. Here comes Stacy. Now, Stacy, earlier this lap, I know it's a long lap, but he was able to get around Chris Pence, and now Stacy's going to pick up this position as well on Sockrider. That Sockrider we ride on board with, and I think James is going to be able to get it. He does.
Yeah.
Move him up 2 positions. This.
Oh! Sockrider through Indianapolis has to save the car, and in a beautiful move, Chris Pence sneaks on by. Now he's a little bit wide coming out of Arnage, and this is going to possibly give it right back with a very slow exit out of that right-hander. Here comes Sockrider. It is a drag race down to the Porsche curves, Bill.
These guys are racing in the back half of this class. They are dead on side by side. Now remember, even though they touch, and there goes Pence, he's going to save it. He gets off in the sand. Sockrider goes by. I could just feel that my spidey senses were tingling. And now, swinging around also, there goes Sean Reese.
So, a boon for Reese, but unfortunately for Chris Pence, that puts him at the back of the cars still running in his class. Rosenbaum also took a tow, we should report, and McGarvey has since exited the session, which means he is now a DNF. That is absolutely going to be a drop week.
He's got a little cushion. He's been doing okay. We talked about the consistency. He's got some room for that one.
Garcia has overtaken Tinsey since we last looked. He's got himself up to 3rd ahead of Bob the Blade. However, the cars in front of them have not changed position. Andra still leads Cervetic. And they are actually, it looks to be pulling away from both Brandon and Robert. It's about a 3-second gap between them for the moment.
Again, I don't want to read too much into this because I don't know if these guys are racing full speed right now or if they're just trying to hit a number.
Yeah, that's actually a fairly good point that I hadn't thought of, is that they could still use the draft to try and lift behind the driver ahead, although looks like Robert Tinsey did not get a good run out of Mulsanne corner, and that costs him quite a bit of space up to Garcia at 9:11. Is getting himself a little bit of breathing room up towards Indianapolis. Down in GTE, though, we're getting a nice little battle between Ellis and Simonic.
Yeah, heading down the Mall Straight, they are now. Simonic all over the back bumper of Ellis. Let's see, he's going to maybe duck to the inside. Yes, he is. Going to make the drag race down towards the Forza chicanes, down Mulsanne. Side by side, looks like Ellis maybe gives away a little bit, knowing he is a faster car. And possibly also it's too early to maybe start battling at this moment. And make the way down the Mulsanne. It takes forever, it seems like. And now onto the brakes, down through the Forza chicanes. Nice move that Simonic was able to make. Paul Darling closing in on this battle a little bit, but right behind him is Dave Hill and Ryan Huff. Now these two have been battling quite ferociously for the past few laps, nose to tail in these two Ford GTs battling it out as they come out of the Forza chicanes heading to Michelin. As we look right now, Huff tried to get right onto the back bumper, going to maybe look to the outside or inside before they hit the Michelin chicanes. I think he's going to follow suit right now, completing another turn, and by the looks of it, going to be quite good racing between these two.
Yeah, that looks like maybe a strategic lift from the driver of Ryan Huff. I think he is already thinking what Bill has been talking about, that fuel strategy. How can I get an edge over those around me? Now, if they stay where they are, Emmanuel Ejere could catch up to them and make it a 3-car train. But the question is whether or not he wants to tip the apple cart and overtake them, or do exactly as Ryan is doing.
Right behind them, Dean Mole and Giuliano Romagnolo as they make it to Mulsanne. Looks like Giuliano had not a good corner exit. This gets Mole right on the inside of him as they're going down this straightaway, heading their way towards Indianapolis.
Yep, a much better run from Mole, and he's going to have the inside into the kink of Indianapolis, but he's got to get it done there because it immediately switches back into the left-hander portion of that turn, and clearly Romagnolo is not interested in giving up.
Can we get a replay on Daniel Giralti? Happened as we're speaking. Car number 47, 6th overall, well, now he's 8th overall. He was in a great battle. He was being ran down by John Ulmer and Jason DeVries. I think he overshot his braking point and just took an interesting line. Now that's, might want to go behind because it's more exciting maybe to watch from there. We go. Now that's Ulmer and DeVries. And watch this as they go through here. Whoops! So Giralti, who rarely makes mistakes, surrenders that spot. Oh, and he picked up the barrier going by as well.
Yeah, just the slightest bit of damage. And these cars so sensitive to aero stuff on these long straights.
And then you saw there at the very bottom of your screen, DeVries actually made the pass on Ulmer. So, you know, Jason was way down. He qualified in 8th position. Or he's qualified in 3rd, then he fell way down. Now he's worked his way back up.
We must have missed a significant incident with Jason then, because he was fighting at the top at the start.
I'll see if I can find it.
Well, Bill's looking for that. Our leader is still Cy Andra. However, he has dropped Dennis of Reddick by quite a margin. It is 2 seconds between them. And it is all Andra's pace, I would say, because Cervetic is still pulling away from Garcia, who is a 3.5-second gap back into 3rd. Oh, we noticed something about Samuel Scott. Did we already cover this?
No, I don't think so. I was looking through the field of the GTE class, and I see Samuel Scott just stuck. After going back through and looking at the replay, it looks like he just pulled it into the gravel trap and just parked it there. I don't know if he's having computer issues or connection issues, but he hasn't left there.
Well, thankfully he got it going once again. So I suspect that looks like hardware issues to me. That or something real life related where he had to step away from the computer. Thankfully, he got it out of the racing line. He did that. Meanwhile, up in the LMP2s, P2 still very much up for grabs. Billy Smith leads Kundinger. Kundinger's yet to get a win here in the LMP2s. Oh, wow, late braking by Smith.
Now remember, Kundinger gets to pick up a position because of the bad luck that happened to McGarvey, but he was way back and he was able to run down Billy Smith. Smith was doing a good job of hanging on to Gerard, but has lost touch now. So Kundinger is a-coming. Just to follow up on Jason DeVries and the LMP1s, the reason we didn't see it, I'm not sure Jason saw it either. I think he had some connection problems. He blinked away and just kind of pulled over and was going really slow. Lost a lot of time. Looks like he's feeling better now.
I'm glad it seems sorted out, but I'm sure he's incredibly frustrated as we even got some blinking from Kundinger. Hopefully that doesn't come back. So we jump down to the GTEs. Right now at the bottom of the podium, you've got McGarvey, Haley, and Simonic all fighting for scraps behind the dominant Jeffrey Ooms, who has refound his stride.
Yes, indeed. Jeffrey Ooms just has already checked out on these 3 competitors right behind him. McGarvey holding his own right now over Haley, but Simonic applying a lot of pressure onto Haley as they're making down their way towards the kink before Indianapolis. There we go down there. Simonic gets right on the back bumper before they hit Indianapolis. You've got to be so careful in this braking zone. very easy to get the car loose. He looks to the inside now as Simonic goes a little off track, making their way down towards Arnage. Just right onto the back bumper, gets right on the curving, right where he needs to hit his mark as they make their way down towards the Porsche curves.
Now, we talk about where these drivers qualified, and some of them seem to be climbing through, and I don't necessarily know if it's race pace as we usually refer to it so much, Taylor, because it's 15-minute qualifying. They did not extend that, and these cars are doing 3.5 to 4-minute laps. So I wonder if it's just more due to a smaller sample size, more drivers making mistakes, that maybe we've just got a jumbled grid.
It could be a possibility of that happening, or it could be just some drivers are just had their car set up properly for the qualifying session, unlike in the race session. So it all depends on how you have your car set up for these. Like we said, this is open setup, and this applies not only to the race setup, but also to the qualifying setup.
And just to drill down on that a little bit, you know, we've seen lots of series where they have 3-lap qualifying, but there you're only dealing with, what, 10, 12 quarters on a lap. If these guys only have 3 laps, that lap has a lot of places to make a mistake and even have an off.
And
Ellis went off.
Yeah, I was just going to say, one of those places to make a mistake is coming out of the Ford chicane. Simonic takes advantage and demotes Bradley Haley down into 4th position. And actually, Ellis took a tow.
Yes, indeed,
He's
he
taking
did.
a look at that. Where did this happen?
This came out of the Ford chicanes by the looks of it.
Oh, well, he blinks out before he even reaches the wall on my end. I wonder if he also had some connection problems or a hardware failure or something. Well, unfortunately, that means we won't be able to find that replay. But a number of cars having trouble very early on this demanding circuit. Back up to the LMP1s. Tinsley's not only fallen off of Brandon, but now he's got Mike Young slowly creeping up in that number 21 LMP1.
And the fast class has got to the tail of the GTEs as well now as they start to work their way through traffic.
Yeah, you can see them getting mixed up down that long Mulsanne straight. As we said, it's not likely to be much of a problem, or as much of a problem, I should say. It still can trip over one another, depending on where you catch drivers. Mike Young has got the hurry up now. He's chopped it down to less than a second and continuing to gain on Bob the Blade.
If you're unfamiliar with Le Mans, basically that long Mulsanne straight is broken up into like 3 equal segments with the 2 chicanes placed at the 1/3 and the 2/3 mark. You'll be coming up to the 2nd chicane right now. This is Michelin. This one goes left, right? Left. Oh, Garcia doing a good job of getting around some of the slower traffic. There goes Tinsley.
But not a good enough job, because actually Tinsley caught him up by a big margin that time. And even put some distance on Mike Young.
Yeah, let's stay on this for a little bit. Now they're coming up on the back of Leif Peterson.
Easily get around him as they go through Golf. And no name. Tinsley on that boost button, I think, as he just makes it look easy going by Brandon Garcia. But now they've got traffic in a bit of a bad spot. If they're in the midst of this coming into Indianapolis, it could mean trouble. Both of them having to slow up as they get sandwiched between GT cars. But they managed to navigate it fine. Now to deal with Arnage, though. 1 gets by. Does 2 get by? Not quite. Brandon trying. He doesn't get held up too much, but that was tense moments.
That's a great battle going on back there in the GTEs, too, with Roman Yolo and Pataska and Mole all involved in that one.
Yeah, Pataska's been showing quite excellent skills here at Le Mans, able to keep the car on track. He did not get a qualifying lap in, but still has been working his way up slowly through the field, like a champ he is with his skills. So, Pataska moving his way up.
See the 10th place driver. Used to seeing Dallas a little bit higher up in this series. Now, the battle ahead of him between McGarvey, Simonic, and Haley has not been able to split apart. They've been staying in that Talladega-esque train that they have since the start of the race.
Yep, this time, though, Simonic has dropped back after that cut course penalty. He's working his way up to McGarvey as they make their way towards the Dunlop chicanes underneath the bridge they are about to go. It's right onto the back bumper of that Ferrari. Down under the bridge they go. And I tell you what, I give it time. I bet by the time we get to Mulsanne, Simonic will start applying a little bit more pressure, maybe utilize the slipstream to make that pass.
As we watch him on board, Pataska still giving chase back here. That's Giuliano Romagnolo up ahead of him. They're going to get passed here by the car of John Ulmer. Gets them both, but unfortunately puts Romagnolo way offline. That allows Pataska to catch up by a big chunk. The car of Daniel Gralti gets by, and once again, Romagnolo just wrong place, wrong time. And Dallas Pataska goes by through Tertre Rouge. Starting to close in on the first pit window opening soon. Wonder who will take it soon. So we jump up to the battle for the podium here in the GTEs, continuing to drop lap by lap. Now 7 seconds down from Ooms. McGarvey still up at the front of these three.
Here we go. Simonic's going to look to the inside, down into the Michelin chicanes. He gets a good run, clips the curbs just like he needs to get that extra needed grip. Coming out of the Michelin chicane, gives Simonic the second position.
So Simonic did it to Haley. Now he did it to McGarvey. But can he pull away? He seems to think he has pace to be up towards the front. And I think we just had our first taker on scheduled stops. Carter Kundinger has come into the pits.
Yeah, let me tell you about Carter Kundinger. He was on a roll. He got around Billy Smith, actually worked his way up to second in class. But I think he was burning a lot of fuel to do it. So he pits. Gee, we're only, what, less than 20 minutes in? Unless he's doing something I can't figure out. Maybe he's counting backwards from 2 hours. He's got to figure it out that way.
Yeah, it could be an early stopper. We don't know exactly how far they can go on the fuel quite yet. Guess if we see someone push it too far and they run out, then we'll know.
Yeah, the point is, though, he was really quick. So that's somebody to keep an eye on, all you guys in Soup's clipboard army. Mark that down. He was fast. We're not going to hear much from him in the standings for a while.
Remember, Daniel Gralti having to make his way back forward. He's down in 8th and currently working on John Ulmer in the LMP1s. That's for 7th spot. As they come towards the Porsche curves, there you see that is Ulmer in the green car, Gralti in the orange and white. Going to have a little bit of traffic ahead of them. That is our leader in the GTE Pros.
Joe, Kundinger's been in the pits for a full minute. That's too long, right?
Actually, yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, they should
Something's
not
up.
be stationed that long. I think, anyways.
Now he's rolling. Right? Okay. Minute 13 in the pits. Minute 42 cone to cone. That doesn't feel right to me, but we'll find out.
Yep, Jason DeVries also comes in. We ride on board with Ulmer, looking back, trying to hold off Gralti, who continues to creep closer and closer under the bridge one more time. Ulmer looking a little bit better out of that chicane. Let's see if traffic will give an opportunity, because Carter Kundinger is up ahead of them, fresh out of the pits. Jason's now coming back out.
Just to follow up on pit stop times, DeVries was 12.7. Of course, he's in a different class than Kundinger was, but nevertheless.
Yeah, still seems a little bit unusual.
Yeah.
We see him back out on track now. And Taylor, you've got a bit of an update for us. What's going on?
Well, Alex Ellis, unfortunately, it was a computer issue as he was able to only drop out of the race here momentarily. And then, of course, Kevin Santana, who is one of our points contenders for the GTE AM category, currently second in the points, he has disconnected due to the fact of an off-track that caused some damage, so unfortunate.
Ooh, this battle for 7th between Pataska and Ejiri looking a little bit hot. This is actually for 8th position. Ooh, both of them going way wide, but I don't think they'll get a penalty for that. Out of Forza. Having cars fly by now, as that was Jason DeVries making his way through.
Yeah, I think that little bit of an off, where he went off a little bit on the chicane, cost him a little bit, but he's gaining back up, though, as they go down the second part of Mulsanne towards the Michelin chicanes. Closes in just a little bit, not enough to maybe make the pass at the moment, but if one small mistake coming off the chicanes, Emmanuel makes the Pataska will be right there as they make their way down to Mulsanne corner.
He's a lot closer this time, but it's not that long of a straight down to the Mulsanne corner. How brave is he? He's sticking a nose down to the inside. It's a kinked braking zone. He's fully alongside now and outbrakes him. I almost think Ejere just decided to give that one up since there's a lot of racing left to go.
Remember, Dallas didn't put in that qualifying time, so he's got around to Jerry, Roman Yolo a while ago, Mole. He's on a roll. He's flying.
A little bit ahead of these guys. We've been keeping an eye on that battle for second actually. And I tell you what, I asked whether or not Alex Simonek had the pace to leave these guys behind. The answer is a firm yes. It's down to McGarvey and Haley with a 1.5 second opening up between the 250 and the 32.
Overall leader is in. We don't need to go there, but Cy Anders making a stop. I just want to note the time. 1 hour and 32 minutes to go.
Pretty much all of the leaders are in. Let's see, is there anybody? Robert Kansian is the only one left that we're waiting on.
I see a 4-stopper here for these guys. They didn't get to the... If they could have got to the 1 hour and 30 minute mark, I would think they could do it with 2 more, but no.
Zaya's back out first. Now, where is DeVries? He's actually currently heading to the Ford chicane at the moment. So Vredick is out. Tinsey is out. Garcia. DeVries just now coming out of the Ford chicane. The only driver he's going to beat, I think, is Geralti indeed. That bumps Jason up to 6th.
So that tells me I don't think we're going to have a fuel race here now. I don't see any reason to save. Just throttle it and take a little extra fuel each time.
Here's the curious thing, though. We've had 2 drivers, DeVries and Duprat. Was it Duprat? I thought it was Duprat.
No, Duprat just made his stop. DeVries came in late, or came in really early.
Well, there's a second car that had already come in. I'm trying to figure out who that was.
Well, it was Carter Kundinger, but he's in the LMP2s who made that early stop.
Must have... very bizarre. I could have sworn I saw someone in the LMP1s that had already had one, but I must have misseen. So that leaves, in that case, my point down to DeVries. He stopped 1 lap early. Is that going to hurt him, or does it not matter at all?
Yeah, I don't see it. I think he's just really working hard at making up for the connection problem that he had trying to get back up. Remember, he's fast, so got plenty of time to do it. He's doing what Dallas Pataska is right now, just racing for everything he's worth.
Down in the LMP2s for 4th place, James Stacy and Ross Booth, the only 2 in that class that are close to one another right now. Everybody else really separated. Giving James a good run here, but not quite close enough to challenge. We ride on board with Ross. Excuse me, with James, I should say.
Ross is having a great season. Just
Absolutely.
Doing well in the points, and he's got to be happy. As a commentator, I would say overachieving. Maybe as a race driver, you're thinking, I'm not overachieving, Soup. I've finally reached my potential.
Meanwhile, look at this battle that we've got on screen. This is Huff and Pataska for the 7th position in the GTE cars. But Huff doesn't seem interested. I would have thought that he'd had a good enough run that he could force the issue if he wanted to, Taylor.
Yeah, he's just not wanting to push the car right now at the moment. Might be trying to just do a little fuel conservation for him right now as they come out of Arnage. So he's pretty much been biding his time. He lets Pataska go. Maybe thinks he might be able to save a little bit more than Pataska, since Pataska seems to be pushing his car maybe a little bit too much, but utilizes the slipstream though to close in a little bit more before they hit to Indianapolis.
But once again, it looks like he's lifting before they get there. Now, that one's a little bit more understandable, since it's never wise to try and go too wide into Indianapolis unless you're in a very high-pressure scenario. Ooh, way off the apex there for Pataska.
And then if you go right in front of them, you'll see another battle between Dave Hill and Paul Darling. These two have been battling it out for the past couple of laps right now, as Hill gets right onto the back bumper of Paul Darling.
Going to get interrupted by Robert Cancian in just a moment. He should be able to swing around the outside, but he elects not to. The LMP1 driver doesn't want to interrupt this battle too much, so he's going to wait until here, and now through Maison Blanche, going to be an easy pass for him.
Yes, indeed. He's going to have to go in the inside as they make their way towards chicane. Hard onto the brakes. Ooh! A little bit too much throttle going into the chicanes.
Both of them get out the other side.
Worse.
So while all of our LMP1 class has pitted, we're still waiting on a number of almost the entirety of each of the other two classes.
Romagnolo has spin coming out of the Ford chicanes. Coming out, he hit the gravel a little bit at the curb and the gravel, causing him to spin. It's just a few seconds ago. I'd say maybe about 20 seconds.
So, as the race ticks on, we are now down to less than an hour and a half to go. Drivers in most of the classes pretty much finding themselves a little bit of track, focusing on their own race, and not as many working on a battle out on track as we watch two of our LMP2 drivers.
They're coming up now. That says Christopher Sherbin, but what we're looking at there, I think that's Stacy and Booth.
It is indeed. Booth falls a little bit back of Stacy after that, getting by Sherburne. Certainly. But they're both going to employ a very similar strategy on pit stops, it looks like. And I think it's safe to say that the LMP2s are, in fact, a three-stop strategy pretty easily.
Gerard Smith and Schindel all came in as well. But they did get over the 30-minute mark so they're going to do it on 2 more stops from here.
Oh, and all that hard work for Simonic. Taylor, has it slipped away?
It did. He cut the Ford chicanes this time, and this caused him to drop back. And with all that going on, Bradley Haley was able to move into the 2nd position, moving Stephen McGarvey back to 3rd. So all that hard work Simonic had, he's going to have to work his way back up to the front now.
We have one daring soul. We don't need to go to it. Chris Pence, the only one of the LMP2s who has decided to stay out an extra lap.
All right, this is going into Indianapolis. Simonic gets right onto the back bumper of McGarvey. Almost makes a little bit of contact. Does not, though. He looks to the inside, now to the outside before they hit to Arnage. Hard onto the brakes. All 3 drivers right there. Just so important to hit your brake marks through there, because one false mistake and you can either get rear-ended or go off track here at Arnage.
So, drivers find themselves in a position they probably thought they weren't going to be back in, especially Alex Simonek having to retake all the hard work that he did before, coming through the Porsche curves, kind of stuck in a line for now, maybe waiting for the Ford chicane, a good exit out of the karting S's. See if any of them get a good run on one another. And though Alex looked good, McGarvey looked just as good and going to deny an opportunity to Simonek.
Yeah, McGarvey's been running a real consistent race so far today, keeping his marks, not cutting the course, which is the big thing here as they go through the Ford chicanes. Simonek gets right onto the back bumper as Haley is kind of, as we have our leader on pit road.
We do indeed, actually. At first, I thought you were talking about John Ulmer, who's made a second stop. I'm not sure what's going on there. But yes, that is our GTE leader. Dave Hill also coming in. A little bit more variety and strategy in the GTE category. Pataska is coming in. And who else do we have? Looks like those are the only takers for this first group.
Looking through the rest of the field, got the next car approaching towards pit road is Tim McAleish.
Ooms is off and away. Finished with his stop. Well, all this has been happening. One thing that we haven't really watched. Oh, and it just broke up. Mike Young was in quite a battle with Jason DeVries. They were swapping back and forth, and poor Mike Young and his number 21 just outbraked himself into the Mulsanne corner.
Yeah, DeVries had ran him down, and Young was trying to hang on. He got this. They did swap those positions back and forth, but DeVries is coming. Two drivers that I think that are really pushing hard: DeVries and then Pataska down in the GTEs, both really racing their rear ends off.
Yeah, I mean, I can't blame DeVries because he's looking at a championship here. He's got to do damage limitation. He's already had some bad results this season. Really doesn't want to try and have more on his record because even though he's not out of drop weeks, they are certainly bad results he doesn't want to be counting.
5 seconds to Brandon Garcia to get to fourth position.
I think that's pretty doable for Jason. Yeah. 20 seconds up to the leader. Honestly, even that, I think is feasible.
Oh, yeah, we got plenty of time. We still got almost 90 minutes of racing to go. Yeah, hour 22.
Meanwhile, the GTE class, Bradley Haley, because of that pit stop from the leader, is now inherited the lead. But it is very tight between himself, Simonek, and McGarvey. They will hand the lead back over once they come in and pit, but will the pit stops play a role in this battle? They are coming up to them soon. And they're very close to one another as we got a battle coming up to Indianapolis. Simonek looking to the inside of Haley. Behind them, McGarvey in the popcorn position, popping back and forth, seeing if he could do something, but he cannot as Alex Simonek, in just a few laps' time, gets back up to the lead. Now taking advantage of the bad exit for Bradley Haley. Almost a little bit of a touch. Stephen McGarvey getting too close up to the Comet.
Yes, indeed, he did. He got real close for comfort right there with Haley. They come out of Arnage, making their way towards the Porsche curves. A little bit of LMP1 traffic going by. But McGarvey working his way, playing a little bit of mind games also when they were going to Indianapolis, thinking about taking it 3 wide, but then ducking right back into line. So McGarvey trying to utilize the mind game strategies on these drivers to try and work his way up towards the front.
Yeah, but I have to say, with the frost and ice coming off the tail of Haley's Comet, he gave him the cold shoulder on that one. Now as they complete the lap, we'll see who decides to pit. Before we go to some of the battles on track, all three come in at once. We'll come back to them once they get to their stall. Let's take a look at James Stacy and Ross Booth in a hot little battle in the LMP2.
This has been going on. These guys were battling before the pit stops. They came in, took their stops. They are battling after it. They are in the same order. Now that car there that's trying to go around, that's Booth trying to get around James Stacy, looking at him. Boy, he's all over him.
He's got a great run coming down to the Mulsanne corner. Can he get it done? That's the question. Oh, that was a big lift we heard on board, so he's not interested in trying to overtake him.
Well, that's how you do it.
Oh, yeah.
Let Stacy make a mistake. As took it in a little bit too hot there, and Booth just is awarded the position. So he moves up now 4th in class.
Oh, and Bradley Haley is out way ahead of the other cars around him. In fact, he's jumped Jeffrey Ooms. Bradley Haley has taken the lead over last season's rival.
Yeah, it might be a short stop, but Ooms gets right onto the bumper of Haley's Comet. Let's see what he can do as they make their way out underneath the Dunlop Bridge, down towards Terre Rouge, and to the Mulsanne Straight.
I wonder if he's going to let him by potentially and see if he could just ride his extra pace.
I don't think he is right now. He gets a good run off down towards Mulsanne. Let's see what he can do down as they make their way towards the Forza chicane. Ooms is reeling him in real quick, utilizing the slipstream right now. This is a good area to utilize the draft to save fuel.
Yeah, so,
Haley trying to...
even if Haley was thinking to do that, maybe it's playing against him. Maybe Ooms is using that strategy instead to just save some fuel behind him, like you said, which would be hugely advantageous considering he had outpaced these guys already.
It's hard to believe, but just with that pit stop that Haley put, he's almost pretty much as he's now. McGarvey and Simonic are just on the middle of the Mulsanne before they get to the Michelin chicanes, while looks like Haley and Ooms are just now entering. So he's got quite a good gap with that pit stop.
Yeah.
Oh, James Stacy from LMP2's. Oh, he's got a blown engine. What happened there? He hit something hard, and it was the Armco, unfortunately. No, he didn't get any help. He just ran over a curb trying to pass one of the GTE cars. Got a little bit loose. This was in Maison Blanche, so maybe about 60 seconds ago. I think his day might be done because they do not have a spare car in this series. This is someone else that we're watching, Ross Booth. We want...
Remember, Booth was in that battle with Stacy. Stacy overshot the Mulsanne, and there's the barbecue.
Yeah, so we just missed it. Here we go. I think we've jumped back again. James Stacy, oh, there it is. He's just coming out of it. So, unfortunate end for James Stacy. I also report that John Ulmer has been in there for a long time. Not sure if something befell him. But pit stops, or at least scheduled pit stops, are done for all of our classes. Let's go through the top 5 and each of them give you an update on where everybody sits. Starting with our leader in LMP1, Cy Andra, has been up at the front for a while. And while he has stretched a lead over the next car, Dennis Svredic, but it is only 5.5 seconds. That sounds like a lot, but a 2-hour race, a lot can happen with traffic and mistakes, or maybe pit stop strategy that the number 9 could catch him. Third place, it is a much bigger gap. Robert Tinsley's recovered. He's got himself onto that podium, and he is being followed relatively closely compared to everybody else by Brandon Guardacia. The number 911 sits in 4th place, just stalking Bob the Blade. Top 5 is rounded out by the driver making a big run back up to the front, and he's continuing to gain ground. It is Jason Deep Freeze DeVries, about 5 seconds back from Brandon. Bill, what's the LMP2s look like?
Jason Girard started in the front of the class, and that's where he has been the entire time. He has 13 seconds back to Billy Smith. Now, Billy Smith had Stephen McGarvey in front of him, but McGarvey ran into trouble early on the first lap. Carter Kundinger got around Smith. Carter Kundinger ran into trouble, so Billy Smith down in 2nd. Mark Schindel is the driver in 3rd, and he's got a whopping 35 seconds back to a guy who's breathing a little easier, Ross Booth. Well, a little bit easier. He was in that battle with Stacy, but now he's got David Sockrider back there in 5th, not that far behind. So we'll see if Sockrider can run him down. Taylor, GTEs?
Jeffrey Ooms has been in his own zip code after that pit stop strategy by Bradley Haley. Ooms was able to make the pass back into the lead down through Mulsanne, putting him back into the lead. Right behind him is Bradley Haley, who is in 2nd position. With that pit stop strategy he was able to make, running consistently well in 2nd position. Behind them is Stephen McGarvey, our points leader in the GTE category pro. He's running a consistent race, running in 3rd. And behind them is Alex Simonik, who started 2nd, but due to the fact of some small errors of cutting courses, he has fallen back to the 4th position. Rounding out your top 5 is a very good effort by Dave Hill. Dave Hill in that number 13 Ford GT running a very strong race as he's battling it out with Paul Darling right behind him coming out of Mulsanne. Joe?
And actually, Simonik not just back there because of errors of his own, but he had some contact with Chris Pence as he was trying to overtake him through the Ford chicane on this very lap. Don't think we have a replay of it, unfortunately, but that could have put a little bit of damage on the nose of Simonik. So watch the driver work his way down. One of the straights where that clean nose is very important on the Mulsanne.
Just to follow up on Bradley Haley, my dad used to say Rumpelstiltskin's going to come for the baby. He took a really short pit stop, so Haley's going to have to pay the price down the road as he's going to have to take more fuel than the rest of these guys.
And that's why I thought that maybe, just maybe, he was trying to get track position so that he could just ride the coattails of Ooms to give him extra pace and make up for that longer stop that he had. But he's dropped off already. You can see the gap between himself and Ooms. It is now up to 1.3 seconds. So not sure that if that was his plan, that it's going to work out. Regardless, it has gotten him well ahead of McGarvey and Simonik. So if he thought he could outrun them on his own, at least it gets him clear. Meanwhile, behind them, Darling and Hill Taylor. Look at this battle.
Yeah, again, they're back at it. Paul Darling and Dave Hill. These two have been going at it all race long currently as they come out of Arnage. Dave Hill got passed by Paul Darling a few moments ago. Now Dave's back onto the attack to try to get by Paul Darling as they make their way down towards the Porsche curves. Dave's been running a real consistent race, keeping his line, hitting his mark, and just working, of course, racing against Paul Darling for the majority of the race.
They now hit those Porsche curves, slowing up behind them. Mark Schindel going to be able to take one. He's got to wait a little bit here before he gets a chance to try and get two. Paul Darling just not in the right place right now. Round the outside, nicely done by Mark Schindel. Didn't really hold up either driver too badly. De Vries is in the pits again. He was one of the ones that took an extra early stop, was he not?
Yeah, he was. Well, he came in early for a stop.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So
actually, this should be scheduled.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was one lap earlier, and I think, according to the time that they came in, we should see. I guess it would be 2 laps, wouldn't it? Since he went, if he does 1 lap shorter every time, it all depends on if he is able to extend it this time.
The question is did he come in because he was run out of fuel, or did he come in because he was doing the math and said, this is where I can come in and do it on the right amount of stops? We'll see. I went back to look at Haley because the interval was about 15 seconds or so, and I was thinking, well, maybe he took some type of tires. He took tires too, so I just think Haley's short-filled.
Yeah, 5 seconds shorter, that seems like just knowing exactly what he can do in terms of strategy. Unfortunately, though, this...
It was between Ohms. Ohms was in there for 29, Haley in there for 12. That's why I started to look at it, because Ohms was in there for so long, according to my numbers.
Well, Simonik was in for a second less than Ohms. Okay. McGarvey was in there just 5 seconds more than Haley, so he split the middle. Maybe it's just everybody kind of taking a different approach.
That's by how it looks like, by looking at all the times and all the information that is provided for us to look at. It's showing that Haley maybe might be able to make it a little bit longer. Or not a little bit long, but be able to go a little bit about the same distance.
And I tell you what, Bill, I kind of wonder if this has to do with the fact that there was a bit of a question mark on the race length until pretty close to it. So yeah. I wonder if this has given us that variety that just, drivers are kind of maybe throwing spaghetti at the wall to see what sticks.
Hey, that's an interesting series dynamic they could have. They just won't announce the exact length right before. Then you have to do the math.
I don't think it would stay very popular. So as we watch back from Ooms, our leader on Bradley Haley, he's stopped the bleeding. He has not dropped back too far from Ooms ever since he got past. He's just been holding station now. In fact, I think he's regained some of that gap.
I believe so, looking at the times. Lap times are about maybe half a second difference between the two. Ooms with a 52.9 while Haley has a 53.4. Of course, with those LMP cars trying to get by them, sometimes that in certain areas that might have to cause a little bit of loss in momentum for those drivers.
So, Cy Andra just went by the pits, and I think is going to be able to go by another one. Curious if anybody else is going to come in. I think, indeed, it's 2 laps shorter now. Well, now 2 laps shorter. Yeah. Than everybody else on De Vries. So his fuel consumption seems pretty consistent from what we're seeing. That is our overall leader, Cy Andra, leading at nearly the halfway point.
I'd be surprised if De Vries is just breaking it up into 4 stops or 5 equal segments. I think he's got it figured out.
120 minutes divided by 5. What would that be? Doing some quick math, the cardinal sin here. But so one thought that I had though on this too is that if it is something where they can't quite make, where they clearly can't make it as far as the others can, then it really shouldn't hurt him that much.
No, I think he's fine.
Bill, you're talking about making a random lap length. How about instead of that, what if we had a series that was a random combination of the free cars and tracks?
Oh, that'd be great.
You get 15 minutes to practice at the start, and everybody gets set on their way. Yeah, there we go. Let's start something like that. So, Andra now coming. Oh, who is that off behind Andra? Way in the background, that was Christopher Sherburne from the GTE class. Did he blow an engine? Or did he just lock up his tires? Let's take a look at the replay. Taylor, I'm trying to watch from my eye in the sky, and I can't tell if he just locked him up late or...
That's what it looks like.
He's still going. Yeah, he's still going, so I don't think it was a blown engine. That was a lot.
No, it just missed his break point.
Glad to see him still out there. Have had a lot of cars, though, that have called it a day. Jesse Lyon, Alan Heisbeck, Jason Lundy, Scott McGarvey, Kevin Santana. Actually, a number of major players and a few championships we're hearing here. Alex Ellis, Sam Scott, Giuliano Romagnolo, Tim McLeish, Sheldon Rosenbaum. John Ulmer's still in his pit stall, but he's been in there for 18 minutes. I don't really think he's going to get back out there. James Stacy, the last of our retirees. So 35 cars are still on track. Andre's in.
Yep.
Sorry, Bill.
No, that's okay. Things are beginning to settle down now, and I would not be surprised if we don't see the entire LMP1 field come in. So Reddick should be Tinsey next.
Tinsey's in. It's like clockwork.
Garcia.
Oh, but Garcia, that is gonna hurt because you actually get a penalty for unsafe pit entry for that. I know, because I've earned that penalty.
Mike Young's going to stay out.
Oh, so does Gralti.
And I think he's going to inherit the lead as Andra's going to stay in there. So that's nice to see.
Daniel Gralti keeps going. Obviously, we know De Vries will, and we got a while before the other two cars. I was going to say the LMP1 drivers have no imagination, but we got a little bit of a mix-up out there. Long stops here, and Andra is out. Coming out in third, Savretic, Robert Tinsley, now Guardacia. What about him? He didn't have anybody come in who was chasing him. Robert Tinsley with a relatively short stop compared to Cy Andra.
De Vries just gets by pit exit.
Guardacia still serving his penalty.
So there's another position for De Vries.
Now Guardacia is going just in time to be out ahead of Cancian.
He was fourth before the stops.
So let's see. The stint, let's see. Yeah, so Mike Young and Daniel Gralti keep going, which will take them to exactly 1 hour.
Yes, indeed.
Almost exactly 1 hour.
Keep in mind they had that little bit of pace lap too on that first stint. They're getting really close to 3 stopping this.
At least 2 of them are.
Yeah.
You have to wonder. That's Mike Young currently leading the way. And I'm pretty darn certain we have not seen Mike Young win a race ever in the AMGSC.
Joe, I'm going to correct you on that one. I think he does have one. I think he won one last season when they were having everybody win. I'll double check on that, but I believe he does have one.
Well, Bill is checking on that. We're riding on board with Young through Arnage. We haven't taken into account, can he make it all the way to the end of this lap?
Of this lap, right.
When you push the limit, sometimes the limit pushes back, and he's coming up to the Porsche curve, so he's getting towards the end of the lap. Not too much farther to go. So he weaves his way through karting now. Out of the left-hander towards Maison Blanche. I think he could pretty much coast to it. So he looks like he is safe. And if he's pulled this off, what a genius move by Mike Young. The car number 21 enters nice and smooth through the chicane, hits his mark on the pit entry cones, and he is headed towards his stall now.
So he's in an interesting position. He needs to go fast enough to stay ahead of Andra and the guys who are doing a four stopper, but he has to go slow enough to make sure he doesn't go an extra lap.
That's true too. We don't when you cut it close like that, sometimes the clock works against you. Andra is gonna get by naturally.
Yeah, but he doesn't care if he's doing it with one less stop. With a pit stop time from cone to cone of about a minute, he can let Andra run away for quite a while.
Exactly. Should be safe from Guardacia. Now, what about De Vries? Yeah, De Vries is by. So that moves him up to fourth now in his recovery drive. That's going to complete our LMP1 stops, and as it brings us just to the halfway mark at 1 hour, we're going to take a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing Channel for Round 8 of the Autobahn Motorcar Group Sports Car Challenge, the 2-hour special here at Le Mans. Stick around, we've got more racing yet to go. Welcome back to the Autobahn Motorcar Group Sportscar Challenge. Cy Andra leads the LMP1s, Jason Gerard leads the LMP2s, and Jeffrey Humes leads the GTEs. We're riding on board with Jason DeVries, who is making a recovery drive if you're just joining us. He started out within the top 3 and has since found himself all the way down to the back of the LMP1 field. This recovery has bought him a podium now. That's Bob the Blade, Robert Tinsey, that we're riding on, looking back at Jason Deep Freeze DeVries. They work their way through the Forza chicane, and the way he's been catching him, it's not a matter of if, but more when, from what it looks like.
He has been really fast, had that linking issue. I think he's going to get this done right here. Let's see. Yep. Really no contest.
It looked like he actually even let him have that one. Now, the other interesting fact about Jason DeVries is when I looked earlier in the race, he was 20 seconds behind Cy Andra. He has chopped about 5 of those seconds off to the overall leader. So not only is he working his way through the field, he is actually faster than the car leading the race. That is good news for the number 19.
Yeah, I think DeVries is on a straight 4-stop strategy, breaking it up into 5 equal sections. He's just racing hard. Andra, I think, has had visions of maybe 3-stopping, and now he realizes he can't. I think it's going to be a splash and go. But DeVries he's hustling. And all this going on with Mike Young, the guy who's going to try to 3-stop it and could pull a fast one on all of them.
Did we ever say how long the 5-stop strategy takes you? I can't remember, because I pulled out my calculator real quick. I cheated. But
okay. Go ahead.
It's 24 minutes each stint would work out to.
Okay.
That he has to go, which sounds about what he's been doing, if I'm remembering correctly. So that pays credence to what you were saying about him just breaking it up evenly and trying to do it the simple way. Now, Daniel Giralty and Brandon Guarcia are close to one another, but is that Brandon who having passed him recently, or is that Giralty gaining on him?
No, Guarcia made the pass. Remember, Guarcia's pace is good. The only reason he was back so far was the pit stop penalty that he took.
So he must have recently passed him. Yeah,
he gets Giralty, and he's pulling away now. He's got to hustle because he's got 20 seconds to get to Mike Young. Now, Mike Young could be catchable because Mike is really not about pace. He's about racing with that egg under the pedal.
And wasn't Mike the one that we saw get into the tires when he blew the Forza chicane? If I'm remembering correctly? We saw a driver who just touched it and maybe got a little bit of damage. So I want to say, I'm trying to find in my notes, I want to say it was Mike Young. So that kind of makes me wonder if that's the reasoning for Mike doing a bit of an alternate strategy, thinking, all right, well, had to get the car a little bit fixed, so might as well do something a little different. Down in the GTEs, Dallas Pataska has got the cameras on him pretty much every other minute here on this race, and he's going to have it more because here's Paul Lindsay down in front of him as they come out of the Mulsanne corner. Taylor, all he needs is a good exit.
Yes, he does, and he's trying to get it right now. He's closing in a little bit more as they're going down the straightaway towards Indianapolis, utilizing a little bit of slipstream. He's going to try to look to the inside. Don't go over the curbs too much. You might hit the grass, cause a little bit of issues. Closing in a little bit more. He's going to try to close in more before they hit to Indianapolis. Gets right under on the inside, gets on the right rear tire, and makes the pass. Lindsay decides to let him by, realizing they are not competing in the same division as far as GTE Pro or GTE AM. And Pataska just makes a clean pass before they hit to Indianapolis.
About 4 seconds up to Dean Mole now. Hey, Joe, look what Bradley Haley's been able to do, though, in second. Remember, we saw Ooms get around him, and I thought it was he's going to fall away. Haley's right there, hanging on. Oh, wait a minute.
He was right there. He's now pitting.
Oh, now he came in. There we go.
Remember, he short-stopped. So And he's in before all the other GTE cars. Well then, things get fascinating. Goes up on the jacks, takes tires as well. Now, one of the things about that you mentioned there, Taylor, about those GTE cars, even though they, as Darling goes by, even though they aren't competing, they're competing in different championships, the points do still count if you pass them on track. So he does still lose the some number of points when he gets passed by a pro driver. It just depends on whether or not he cares about the overall championship.
Exactly. That's where he was probably focused on. Yes, he does want to try and compete for an overall championship, but also realizes he is running strong in the GTE AM.
Oh,
so no need to...
Is that Haley off? That's Haley off! What happened?
Out of pit lane.
That was in the...
Well, wait a minute, though.
That was in the Dunlop chicane, and that was all by himself. Too much of the inside curb.
Yep. First corner on cold tires.
Oh, boy. Haley just can't seem to get it together this season. Well, that means that Dallas Pataska has a head of steam heading down the Mulsanne and up to the Forza chicane. Does he have enough momentum? No, he's going to brake a little early. Pataska holds behind, not really interested in passing this time at least.
This is the first time Dallas has got to somebody with a little pace now. This Haley may be a little harder for Pataska to get around than what he's been dealing with earlier.
We'll find out. He's got another run here, and he's within the slipstream. I think it's more of a question of strategy. Does he really want to try and get by? I think he does, actually. Yep. Going to stick his nose in. Coming up to the Michelin chicane. He's got a little bit more speed, and I think he's got it done now.
I hate to see those Ferraris get around Fords, though. Yeah.
All right, that moves Dallas Pataska up to 8th. Kundinger and Sockrider in a little bit of a battle, and I think Sockrider actually just took his stop. No, it was Sean Reese I was thinking of that just came in.
Kundinger, really quick, had that horrible stop, and I could not figure out why. He was in there basically for a 7-course meal. So he's working his way back through now.
Wonder if it was a little bit of damage, maybe. I think we saw, well, yeah, we saw Kundinger get hit a bit ago. Did we not? Very, very early in the race.
Could have been.
So
he's trying to make that up. 6.5 seconds to get up to Ross Booth.
Did something happen to Daniel Gralti? He has been in for over a minute, well over a minute, nearly 2 now. And the reason I noticed is because he was being overtaken by Jason Girard, like in overall position.
Yeah. Yeah, Gralti was on a similar strategy as Young, but yeah.
It was a long time ago. It was coming into the Porsche curves. The bridge corner caught him in a very bad way. He slammed the wall hard. So yes, indeed, we can't see the damage because it's all on the side facing the garages.
In the old days, they'd just go get themselves a fresh car in this series, but these guys have put on their big boy pants. No fast repairs anymore. I like it.
Dallas Pataska decided to make his pit stop right now, along with Dave Hill. So we got a couple of our GTE drivers coming down pit road.
And that does free up Bradley Haley as well. Gives him some clean air to try to make up the time that he lost with his spin. Although he's still down in 7th, waiting for a lot of cars ahead of him to pit.
And Joe, remember when you're talking about De Vries, you said it was 24 minutes for a stint? Well, you double that, you get to 48. He's in with 47 to go, so Jason DeVries making his pit right at the right time. We're on to you, Jason.
Yep, we saw some Reddick still out there. and here my math teachers said you won't always have a calculator with you. They didn't have smartphones then.
Right.
So Reddick still in second, but steadily losing that time up to Cy Andra. It is now 9 seconds up to the number 24. After a drought of wins at the start of the season for Cy, he's looking like he might go back-to-back. He's still got a lot of racing to go, and as we said, we might still have a couple drivers that could pull the wool over the eyes of their competitors on strategy.
There's just LMP2 maybe. You know, Schindel is now ahead of Billy Smith. Did we miss something there? Smith has been in second the whole time. Smith made a stop. Oh, he did. Well, they all that's it. Smith made a stop.
They've all made stops.
So did Schindel.
Yeah, they've all except, I think, Chris Pence.
Right. Schindel's stop was 22 seconds. Billy Smith's 36 seconds. So that's it. That's the difference there. Tires, maybe, I would think, possibly. Usually a little longer for tires.
This is a great run by Schindel. He's usually a mid-pack driver, but he's looking at a podium today and looking pretty handily at a podium. Now, Billy Smith is chasing him down, as Bill said, but even with that, he would stay in third. With a big gap back to Ross Booth.
And sure enough, no tires for Schindel.
And these cars can do that. These tires on the HPDs are known to be a little bit durable. So I'm not too shocked that some of them have decided to just do a splash and go. Still waiting on pit stops for a lot of GTEs, but not our overall leader in the GTEs. Jeffrey Ooms has hit the pit lane, has come down the pit lane now, and is looking for his stall. Simonic, though, stays out.
Well, you got to remember, Ooms was the first car as far as lead lap GTE cars to come in during that last cycle of pit stops. So this is the time probably now where he needs to make that stop. Simonic as well as McGarvey could probably go 1, maybe 2 more laps before they'll have to come down pit road.
Still nobody else coming in. Ryan Huff currently sitting in 5th. Will be the next time by, or the next one by. Ooms is already out. And Huff will not get him, as Jeffrey Ooms should return in 4th place in that class.
Let's go to 11th overall. I think this is the pass. This is Schindel. And Billy Smith coming up on him. This is going to be a pass for second.
Yellow car in front is Schindel. Green car in back is the 901 of Billy Smith. As he's nicely in the draft, you could see them riding down towards the hump and then getting ready for the braking of the Mulsanne corner, but he's not quite close enough. You're going to have to wait for one more corner.
Billy knows this commentator's not going to put up with any nonsense here. Get this pass made.
He's gaining and he's gaining. They go through Golf and then come up to No Name. Yes, he's going to do it. He's not going to wait around and try to save fuel. He pulls out beside as they come up and break down for Indianapolis. A little bit of a fight back from Schindel. In fact, a lot of fight back. He keeps the inside as they come up to Arnage.
Oh,
and almost runs into him. He has to take off track. He's going to get a cut course penalty for that one. And that will cost him more time, but he keeps the car whole.
I was worried in evading the first contact. He was going to come across the grass and T-bone him.
That TMC car certainly did not look in a good state, but He holds on to that third. Just a little bit of a heart attack for a moment, and he keeps going.
Oh, they made that more exciting than it needed to be. That was fun. Hey, Mark put up a fight. He was not going to give that one up.
Yeah, I give him credit there. He made Billy Smith work for it. And Billy Smith, now that he's worked for it, is enjoying the fruits. He's stretching away by quite a bit of time. It's already a second gap between them. Down to the GTEs. It's a battle for the top 5. Number 41 of Ryan Huff, and then number 79 of Dean Mole, close together as they run down one of the many long straights here at Le Mans.
Yeah, Dean Mole's been quite quiet here tonight, running inside the top 10 in class here in the GTE category. And then, of course, Huff been inside close around the top 5, 6 position for the most part. Mole gets a good run, though, down straightaway, utilizing the draft before they get to Indianapolis. Let's see what he does when they come out of Indianapolis before they head to Ernage. I don't think he's going to be close enough to make any position passes, but maybe start applying a little bit more pressure onto Ryan Huff.
It's going to depend on the exit that Huff can get. Not the tidiest of corners, but still not bad. And it will keep him safe from Mole for now, as Dean, as was said, isn't close enough, but will be getting slipstream and will find himself getting that slightly bit more of top end before they have to hit the brakes for the Porsche curves now.
Simonic and McGarvey are coming on to pit road at the moment. They're going to complete their second pit stop along with Paul Darling. So we're going to be seeing our front runners in the GTE category be making their pit stops here tonight.
They see him now up on the jacks. I can report that Jeffrey Ooms is now heading into the Ford chicane. There's Darling. Oh, but Ooms just made contact, and he gets spun around. Sean Reese makes contact multiple times. Take a look at what happened here. The traffic of Sean Reese trying to overtake him and did get by.
Yeah, Reese makes a mistake. I don't think there was any contact. I think the car just gets loose right in front of the Mantra.
Trying to find the replay here. We're currently live. So we try to pull it up. So he's heading through the Ford chicane. Here we go. This is it right here. Yeah, he gets fully past him and then just seems to slow up maybe a little bit more than he anticipated.
There was no contact. That was. I mean, there was contact, but it wasn't the spin wasn't because of Holmes. Yeah.
Well, looking at the lead right now between Ooms and Simonic, it looks like it's not going to be affecting too much because Ooms is still on the back bumper of Simonic.
Yeah, that still was a lot of costly time. Because he should have been out well ahead of him. It should have been at least an 8-second gap, I want to say.
At the least, yeah, it should have been a much bigger gap. So Ooms had a little bit of work to do right now to get back by Simonic. Of course, with that damage possibly to the nose, there is a slight bit on the right side of the car. So it could cause a little bit of aerodynamic issues for him on these straightaways.
I wonder, let's see, how many laps in are we on our LMP1s?
They should be coming in.
Is on lap 7, yeah.
I would be surprised if they go around again. They might. Nope, here comes Andra. Soup's on his game today.
So, Cy Andra, the first taker. Dennis Savretic dutifully follows him in. No surprises there. Oh, but he cut a lot of the entry chicane. Could this hurt Dennis Savretic? Now, thankfully, he has a big gap back to third place Robert Tinsey. Keep a close eye on his pit stall time to see if he gets a penalty.
Tinsey comes in. Now, Young will not. Young is past pit entrance right now. What Young needs to be, we got to make sure that Young can out get in front of Andre. Oh, Andre just getting to his box, yeah. Boy, the pit lane here at Le Mans is just brutal. Yeah. This is what Young's counting on. That long pit lane, getting in and out. If you can do it on one less stop. It's not so much one less stop, it's one less pit lane is really what it's all about.
And the sky is not falling. Dennis Sevreddick managed to get in and out at the same amount of time that Cy Andre did, so he did not get a cut course. Robert Tinsley is still in his stall waiting for his work to finish. Should be any moment here, and it's a very quick stop. Almost 2 seconds faster than Mike Young's last stop, a second faster than Sevreddick and Andre. Garcia hits his stall. Now, actually, how far? Jason DeVries is not too far behind Robert Tinsley.
Right.
But Jason still has one more stop to go at about the 24-minute mark.
Well, so does Tinsley, although it's questionable how long Tinsley and Andre stops are going to be. Our race leader, Mike Young, in all things said and done, everybody has one more stop to do. The problem for Young is it might just be pace. He's only, what, about 9 seconds up on Andre.
4 seconds now, actually. So Young trying to work it as well as he can, but Cy still has that one more stop. If Mike can make it these 2 laps, we know that he can get to the end. Love waiting and watching to see how these things will play out. Now, those of you who are fans of Simonic or Ooms, they are holding station at the moment. Simonic just about half a second ahead. Ooms doesn't appear to have damage on his car, but you can never know. There can be stuff that we can't see. Because he should be faster than Simonic from what we've seen so far in this race. He should have been able to overtake him.
Well, those prototypes are fragile. When you take a GTE car and nose it into a prototype, the prototype's going to crumble like a cookie.
Guess that is the way the cookie crumbles for these guys for now. As we're almost in a bit of a waiting mode because not many battles are happening out on track. The closest one that looks to be happening soon is for 4th place in our LMP1 class. That's between Tinsley and DeVries. DeVries has been gaining bit by bit, and actually it's no longer bit by bit. He is gaining a lot at a time. I wonder if this comes down to the difference in strategy. If maybe DeVries can push that a little bit harder.
Yeah, well, when you've broken it up into those even segments, he knows what he's doing. He can race hard all the way. The bad news is his stop might be a little bit longer than Tinsley's. Tinsley might be able to splash and go more, and DeVries will have to take more of a legitimate stop. They each have one more to make.
That's a fair point. He gets a little bit of a run, but it's very hard to pass into this first part of the Ford chicane, and they've actually got traffic in front of them in the form of Dale Green. This GTE car just going to be in the way momentarily, but maybe it'll happen down the front stretch. Let's see. Yes, indeed. Tinsley pulls over and even lets him through.
Simonic makes a major mistake going into Arnage, had to lock up the brakes. This gives Ooms right onto the outside going into Porsche curves, but he has to let off though and gets into the grass a little bit. He's got to be careful not to get too loose in there. Through the Porsche curves and heading towards the karting S's. Simonic is able to pull a little bit of a gap now.
Ooms is smelling blood. Clearly he's not interested in sitting around forever behind Simonic, hoping to end that winning streak of Alex's. Glad to see a close battle happening here at the top of the GTE field. They weave their way out of the Ford chicane. Just want to report we don't need to go there, but Mike Young seems to still be going strong, and he's still leading Cy Andra. I think if he can make it to the end of this lap, I think he should be good. Right in on board with Ooms now, watching him try to chase down the leader. Go ahead, Bill.
Well, it's weird because with his 30 minutes is where you want to be, but you have to take into account the amount of pit stop time he's in there. It's almost takes a full minute. So I think if he comes in here this time around, we're certainly good to go. He's going to come in. This will be his final stop.
We stay on Jeffrey Ooms, the number 97. He's in the red and white machine. Alex Simonik in the blue, black, and white machine. Down the Mulsanne. Drivers getting a chance to relax their focus just a moment before they brake hard for the first chicane, the Forza chicane. They have to get back onto the power, and it's foot to the floor once again. And behind them, we've seen these two battle a little bit, but I think last time, wasn't it Mole behind Huff, or am I misremembering?
No, Mole was in front for the most part. Huff is, though, closing in as they make their way towards the Mulsanne straight. See who gets. Make sure you don't cut the course through Tetra Rouge as they come down the Mulsanne straight, heading towards the Forza chicanes. Looks like Huff might get a good utilizing of the slipstream to close in. Maybe take a look to the inside before they hit to the Forza chicanes.
And Young made it. Young made it to the pits. And I'm pretty certain with the time that it takes him to get to his stall, Bill, I think he's got it to the end here. I think he can make it.
Oh, yeah, he'll be good to go. It's a matter of pace. Andra had closed it to about a second, so Andra still may be out to outpace him. We'll see how it plays out. It'll be fun.
Fun for some, nerve-wracking for others. As we watch this battle for the lead in the GTEs. Ooh, and Ooms looks a lot closer this time. He is gaining. We're coming up to Indianapolis. But he's not quite close enough to be able to try and make that pass. But whereas before he was hanging back at about 0.7 of a second, Taylor, he's now hovering at about 0.3. I think it's go time.
Yes, indeed. We're closing in on less than 30 minutes to go. Actually, under 30 minutes to go right now. So Ooms has got to start applying a little bit more pressure on Simonik if he wants to get back into the lead and pull away. So they're making their way towards the Porsche curves. Keep an eye. See if he maybe takes a look to the outside. If not, he will just follow suit through the Porsche curves, which he is going to do right now. Just follow suit with Simonik through there as they make their way towards the karting S's. And this battle will be one to watch, so we need to stay tuned to this momentarily. And let another battle for the lead in the other classes seating up.
Sounds like we got a bit of a battle for the LMP2s. This is for 4th place, way behind the podium.
That's Woloshin. They're going around. Booth in the blue car. Kundinger stalking him back there. Kundinger's faster. He should be able to run him down. These guys are not quite as evenly matched as the Simonik-Ooms battle we were watching. Kundinger clearly faster. He's been making up for a mistake early on.
But he's slowing.
What is going on here?
Course?
Well,
I'm checking to see if he...
Oh, he's really having trouble. He then shot the chicane. He's done. Did he run out of fuel? Well,
yeah, because he didn't cut the course. Maybe something happened that in real life that he just could not put off. Well, that's really disappointing because he was on such a great run, and that was probably the last car that he would have been able to overtake.
Yeah, he had the mysterious pit stop early, though, and now he has left the session.
All right. Let's head back to that battle for the lead in the GTEs. Simonik and Ooms Still, Ooms just staying right in the tire tracks.
Something fishy going on here.
You think he's saving?
I think either that or the car's not feeling well. Ooms should be able to. I mean, Ooms was really flying.
Again, these are much longer straights than almost anywhere else on the iRacing service. The aerodynamics so important. It makes you wonder if maybe his top end is down a little bit.
There's a good possibility of that, and also could be just biding his time right now. They're coming up on some GTE lap traffic right now.
Yep, some of their own class. That's Mark Kudrowski up ahead of them. So as they get close to 25 minutes left to go, we are past 3/4 of the way through this race. 2 hours long here if you're just joining us. It is the 8th round of the Autobahn Motorcar Group Sports Car Challenge. We're riding with a driver who had the pole and looked like he was going to be dominant and take the win, but a little bit of contact with one of the other classes has set him backwards, and since then hasn't shown as much ability to get back in front. We're not sure if that's intentional or not. Speaking of those 25 minutes, it's 24 minutes gaps if you want to break it up in 5 stints. And that relates to our driver on the bottom of the podium currently in the LMP1s. Jason DeVries, the number 19 car, is heading down the Mulsanne out of Forza. The next time by will be 24 minutes. He can pit if he wants to.
For his final stop.
Indeed.
We believe Mike Young has already taken his final stop, so it'll be interesting to see how...
yeah, if Mike gets him.
Yeah.
Mike right now is... I think he should, actually.
Oh, yeah, it's
easily.
only about 14 or 15 seconds, I think, between DeVries and Young, yeah. This is all a matter of pace, what kind of pace Young can have on this field study.
Now, Bill, you were kind of noticing something about third in the LMP2s.
Remember Mark Schindel? He took that real short pit stop, got out ahead of Billy Smith. Billy Smith got him. Well, now Ross Booth is beginning to run down. We just saw Booth was in that battle earlier with Kundinger until Kundinger had that mystery exit. But now Booth has a chance to get to Schindel. He's knocking off about, well, it's such a long lap. I'm going to say almost a second and a half a lap. He's really closing. So we'll keep an eye on Booth getting that podium. Again, Ross having a great season.
Ooh, the tail in the battle for first in GTEs has a sting in it because Jeffrey Ooms cut the course, had to give up a lot of time. He is now a second and a half back from Simonic.
Yes, indeed, and that could be costly. Getting closer to the end of this race, Simonic could possibly, unless if he cuts the course, could prevent Ooms from getting the win here at Le Mans.
And Joe, this may tell us whether Ooms' car is truly having trouble.
Yeah,
because
that's
now
true.
he's not in the he's got to do it all on his own. Billy Smith pitting from second in the LMP2s.
Yep, should be his final scheduled stop. Then he'll be on his way all the way to the checkered flag. He's so far ahead of third place Mark Schindel that Mark won't even be close to jumping him if he stays out. DeVries is in. DeVries takes his final stop with exactly 23 minutes left to go. He even went a little bit long.
Well, if he could have pitted at 24, he would have, but there was just no pit entrance where he was on the track. So
Mike Young did easily pass him. So did Brandon Guarcia. Robert Kansian should not be passing him. In fact, Robert only pitted one lap ago, which I think is right on the cusp. So I'm curious if the 199 back in 7th could even make it to the end. All right, De Vries returns in 6th. And if I'm seeing correctly, about minute 20 behind the overall leader. As for Young, he is about...
in trouble. I'm seeing about 53 back. I think Anders should be able to get in and out before Young gets there.
Yeah, that should be correct, because it can be a shorter stop this time through.
But second place, certainly a doable for Young.
Well, and Young started from 6th on the grid, so a second place would be a fantastic result, especially up against the talent that he is. Cars behind him, you can see Young in the orange and white car. That's Garcia chasing him down, and that is an LMP2, so different class. They look similar, but Billy Smith not racing him. So even though Brandon will probably pass Mike soon here, Brandon has yet to take his final stop. Let's step away from that for a moment. Taylor, have you been keeping an eye on Simonic and Ooms and what kind of pace Ooms has?
Well, right now it's about a 1 second gap between the two at the moment. Looking at the lap times, we're going to see what Ooms runs this time by. So by the looks of it, let's see. They're coming to the line. Simonic ran a 51.5 that last lap. This lap is a 51.9. Ooms, I don't see a lap time up still.
I think he may have cut the... the cut course was last time, was it not?
Yeah, it was.
So he was still serving his penalty, so obviously we won't get to know what that lap time is because iRacing won't count it.
No, but still, it's about now 1.7 second gap at the moment between the two, and pulling away Simonic is to now 1.8. So Alex keeps on running like this, he could pull away.
It was 1.7 though when he got that penalty, so he's holding station.
Yeah, he hasn't lost a major time at the moment due to the fact, so maybe that damage he has on the nose is not as severe as we thought originally.
Well, he's down to under 20 to go. Go ahead.
He's about half a second back. When we were talking about it, it was 1.7. Now what are we? We're looking at 2.2. So Ooms is having he's trying to stay with him.
Something seems to have happened to Robert Kansian. He is taken to the pits for quite a long time, and I don't think we can get the replay on this, so we won't need to really go back, but I'm checking to see exactly why he's come in. Oh, he did indeed have a problem. Looks like it was out of the Michelin chicane. Too much curb, spun the car, it bottomed out. He got stuck in an Armco barrier, couldn't get out, so he had to take a tow. Leaves only 7 of our LMP1s running.
Talking about LMP1s, let's go to 4th position overall. This is Mike Young. He's about to be taken over by Brandon Garcia. But Brandon has one more stop to make.
Yeah, Young's pace certainly seems to indicate that he is having to slow a pretty significant amount to try and make it on these longer stints. What was 54 seconds is now 56 seconds between himself and the leader.
Yeah, the interval to Sovretic is really what's going to be interesting, whether he can get that second position. Garcia having a hard time getting to Mike.
Kind of surprises me, to be honest. They have to go through Gerard and leave that LMP2 behind. That hurts his progress just a little.
Nice for Jason to get a little bit of screen time. We're talking about Gerard, the leader of the LMP2s. He's got 15 seconds. Really has not been much going on in that middle class to look at.
Yeah, with our lack of coverage of him. Did Ross Booth have a problem?
I think Booth has been having connection problems for a long time.
He was just in the pits.
Right. Remember that was the whole battle with Schindel, if he was going to be able to run down Schindel. Somehow the timing and scoring went really screwy, and all of a sudden Roth Booth was a long way back. I went back to check on it, and there was a lot of blinking and disappearing, so I think he's having one of those issues. Our director's not going to be able to find a replay because, well, he might not have been
on track. Yeah. Meanwhile, much to our astonishment, Mike Young is holding off a charging Brandon Guarcia. Brandon still has a couple more laps before he can, or needs to come in. We've seen them go about 7 laps. Most drivers.
Let him go by and save a little fuel there. You don't need to be out in front.
Good point. Well, he gets around the lap traffic that continues to confound poor Brandon. Every time he gets close, they get another car.
It's Paul Darling in 4th in the GTEs.
But he's not waiting around. Look at that. He outbreaks him down into the Ford chicane. Now, Brandon Guarcia moves himself up into 4th.
And away he goes.
Well, that gives us a clear gap between Young and DeVries, who we know should be able to get to the end, both of them at this point. It is 18 seconds. And DeVries, his laps are a little all over right now.
15 minutes, 18 seconds. That's really doable for the pace that both Young and DeVries, they are on the different ends of the scale. DeVries has been fast the whole race.
Yeah, DeVries just ran
the whole race, yeah.
DeVries ran a 3:20 versus Mike Young, the pinnacle of consistency here today. 3:24, 3:24, 3:24. So consistently 4 seconds quicker than Young. Down with Haley trying to come back from a few issues. He's gaining on number 13 of Dave Hill.
Yeah, Dave Hill still running around in the top 5, now having to battle with Bradley Haley. Haley's coming now, getting a good run as they make their way towards the 4th chicane. He's going to back off just a little bit. There is a lap car of the GTE class in front of them, Matt Owens, so that might come into play, but I don't think Matt will get out of the way between these two as let them battle. Down the Mulsanne straight they go again to head down towards the Michelin chicanes. Utilizing the slipstream, they're closing in a little bit by a little bit. Let's see. I don't think Haley's going to be close enough to make a pass.
Taylor, if there is damage to Jeffrey Ulm's car, when he comes in for that pit stop, can he say no thank you? I'll take what I got, or does he have to take it?
It depends. By the looks of it, it's not a required pit stop for damage. Otherwise, he would have already came in a long time ago because of the flag, for the meatball flag is what we call it, or damage is needed to be repaired to the car. So, by the looks of it, he will not need to repair the car if need be. Looks like Haley's going to get a good run as they make their way down to Mulsanne corner.
This is where he wants to set himself up. Trying to get a good exit off of there. Just seems a little far back. Yeah, I don't think that passes on.
No, he is way too far off.
I can report that our leaders, Syandra and Dennis Savretic in the LMP1s, have continued on for one more lap. Next time, for sure, they should be coming in.
Yeah, I'm going to ask this question for the fans because I've been focusing on the LMP1s and LMP2s. So we look at this
sorry to enter. Yeah, I was just on screen. Was that a moment? Was that Billy Smith that we saw? Yeah, that was. He nearly took himself out of the race.
Yeah, Billy. You got 22 seconds. You got Schindel. You don't have to worry about him. You're not going to catch Gerard. Easy, baby.
Just outbraked himself into Indianapolis. As here we go. Let's stay on this battle down to the inside into the Porsche curves. Bradley Haley gets a nose in side by side and finally completes it as they go through the bridge.
So what I wanted to know for the fans is, do the GTEs, do they still have one more stop to make? Are we comfortable with that, or can they go the distance?
Pretty sure they're going to the end here.
Okay.
Yeah, taking a glance at their stints. Yeah, Haley stopped 2 laps ago. Oh, maybe they're not. Oh, I think some of these drivers do actually need to come in because Haley stopped 2 laps ago, now 3. Darling, McGarvey, Ooms, and Simonic are all 7 or 8 laps ago. So I think they still got one more.
Could come down to pit stops here. So Ooms, yeah.
Dallas Pataska takes his last stop. I suspect with this being so close to the end, we're just going to see fuel, no tires, and off they go. Pataska hits his stall. Doesn't look like he's taking any tires, just getting a little bit of fuel, and he is gone. Now, we haven't looked in on Simonic and Ooms in a while, and for all of our doomsaying about Jeffrey Ooms, he has chopped about a second off of that lead.
You've been closing in a little bit by little bit. Right now, it is about 0.7 of a second at the moment.
All right, Cy Andra is now coming towards the pit entry. He's got a little bit of traffic he's got to go around. In fact, that causes him to brake. That's some lost time for Cy. David Sockrider just in a bad place at a bad time for our overall leader. Looks like a clean entry. Savretic should, we expect, follow him in. So should Tinsey. And indeed, Savretic is in.
Young is in the sand. Young had made a mistake. Looks like Indianapolis. He didn't do anything wrong. It just cost him a ton of time.
Going to take a look at the replay here. Yeah, it seems like in his attempt to save fuel, I mean, sometimes you lift and coast, and that changes your braking. Changed a little bit too much for him.
That may not be any big news up front, but it's going to be good news for DeVries. Remember, we think DeVries was trying to run him down.
Oh, and Andre's already out. So Andre's got him easily. Dennis Savretic just...
Will he get Savretic? That's the question.
Well, Savretic just stopped. We're seeing about an 11-second stop for Andra. 12 seconds for Savretic. He's out. I don't think he's going to get him.
I think that little off is what hurt him. Young, I'm talking about.
But we're looking at, oh gosh, probably a good 10-second gap here, I think, between Savretic and Young, and that wasn't a 10-second hindrance, I don't think.
These were really quick stops for Andra and Savretic.
Ooms is in.
All right, Jeffrey Ooms. This could be the critical one. Could he potentially maybe jump Simonic? Not have to deal with pass him on track. Update on DeVries and Young. 7 seconds between them.
They do jump Tinsey. So Tinsey, who was racing third, now goes down to fifth.
That's Robert Sklanka we saw exiting the pits. There's Tinsey, currently running in fifth.
Trouble for Paul Lindsay coming out of Arnage. Decides to spin it. We don't need to go to a replay on that, but he is able to get back out on his own power.
So we're waiting on Stephen McGarvey and Alex Simonic to take their final stops. Paul Darling as well. We've got a close battle between Booth and Sockrider. This is heading towards Indianapolis.
Booth is going the wrong direction. He had a chance for a podium, and it's all gone south on him here.
Sister team TMC drivers out there, hence the similar liveries. They are not racing on a team together, scoring points together, we should point out. As Bill explained, the rules in the team's championship earlier on.
TMC does not stand for Turner Movie Channel. I believe it is the Mustang Club, if I remember right. Very different.
Something related to that. At least that's what it started as. But now it's Canadian themed. So I think the C might have something to do. I think it's Team Mustang Canada.
Okay. All right. We'll go for that.
Is what I want to say. Well, he's not doing a good job of keeping up with Booth here. And that's why, because he's heading into the pits. Meanwhile, down in the GTEs, battle for 6th, which could yet change because we have some drivers that need to pit still. Both Mole and Huff are 2 of them.
And your leader.
As they work their way down towards the Mulsanne corner, just look at him follow right exactly everywhere he goes, and he's starting to weave. Trying to keep him out of that slipstream, but doesn't seem to be working too well. Excuse me, they're heading to Michelin here, not Mulsanne.
Yep, got another bit of the Mulsanne straight to go.
Alex Simonik, our leader in the GTEs, is coming through the Porsche curves now. Up into Bridge. He's been racing with Jeffrey Ooms for this last stint. Jeffrey Ooms, with some trouble dealing with traffic, finds himself put behind a car he has been leading nearly the whole race long.
Ooms did have a pretty good hot lap out of the pits, though. Oh.
I think that was the natural line that we saw from Simonik. It might have looked like he was ducking in the pits, but a lot of cars trying to get as wide an entry as they can into that chicane. So he's going to stay out for one more lap. So will the driver chasing him, Stephen McGarvey.
Unless they decide to pit this next lap, if they do not pit, looks like their bed will be made in a sense. I think unless this might be the white flag possibly when they come back around.
I think he's going to have to pit on the white flag lap, I think.
Well, Cy Andres just came out of Mulsanne. So, yes, indeed, he will. You're right. He will get the white flag this time by. Oh, Jason DeVries with a spin right now in the Michelin chicane. He was hot on the heels of Mike Young within 2 seconds, and he has now just thrown away a chance to get on the podium. Pushing hard, takes that curb wrong, and that LMP1 finds itself pointed the wrong way.
DeVries has been pushing for, well, an hour and 57 minutes, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm looking at the gap now that it's solidified. 8.3. I'm pretty sure with a lap and a half to go, that is way, way too much for him to overcome. So, Bradley Haley and Paul Darling, 4th place. Oh, and Cy Andra comes through. 1 lap to go as the white flag waves with a 21-second lead. I'm not sure that there's any question on who is going to take over the win unless he has some enormous accident out there. There is our leader in the LMP2s, Jason Girard. 12 seconds between himself and, I didn't think that he would get this high up, but Billy Smith, currently in 2nd place It's a nice recovery from Billy. And then Alex Simonic, not too far away from him. Now, can Simonic make this one more lap? He's coming up to the pit entry soon. He just came out of Arnage.
He needs Syondra to pass him, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Oh, no. Syondra's nowhere near him. How many laps did they do in the previous stints, actually?
I think he's got to come in.
Yep, through the Porsche curves. Go ahead.
What happens if his pit box is on this side of pit lane? It's possible. All he would have to do is just, if his pit box before the start-finish line.
But Stephen McGarvey's only 21 seconds behind. Well, I guess Stephen has to pit too.
McGarvey's got to come in too.
He's coming in.
Wow. That close for Alex Simonic.
Yeah, looking at their previous laps, they only made it about 9 laps, give or take. So.
Yeah. Ooms is coming.
This is McGarvey. This is the second place driver. Does he come in? Yes, he does. Ooms is the next one down. He's in third place.
He's working to get around the yellow car of Shalenka.
Slowed a little bit there, though.
It sure did.
Maybe got a slowdown penalty. Ooms has taken his final stop.
Simonic is rolling.
Ooh. This is tight, but not tight enough. Jeffrey Ooms is out of the final chicane. He is going to get Stephen McGarvey, but he is not going to get Alex Simonic.
Simonic is going to definitely have to keep an eye out. Even though he has pulled a little bit of a gap, this could mean, although Ooms is stuck in a little bit of traffic right now, this could be Simonic's win.
But in the meantime, we need to duck away because Syondra, after 2 hours, is coming towards the line. Just out of the karting S's with a 24-second gap. With a 24-second gap, he now comes up towards the Ford chicane. All he has to do is just cruise through here, nice and easy over the curbs. Syondra, after a drought, makes it 2 for 2 on wins. The next one through, I believe, should be Jason Girard in our LMP2s. Severick does get second in that class. Now, it might be a little bit tight for Young and DeVries, actually. Let's go to them. This is for third. Mike Young going pretty slowly to try to get to the end of this race. DeVries has chopped it down by half since we last looked at them. And coming up to the final chicane, yeah, I think he's got it.
DeVries would have had him if he didn't make that mistake.
Yep, I think...
Nice run from Mike. That was fun.
I think Jason knows that, too. 2 seconds at the line. Oof. Jason Girard. Now, coming out of Arnage. Hasn't really had the screen time. But this is looking like 6 for 8 now for the 0-2. Someone is going to have to find an answer for the man from New York. He's a nuclear engineer. He is a smart man. Clearly today, when it came to outsmarting your opponents, the infamous Le Mans, he was able to do it yet again. Through this last chicane, Jason Girard, for the 6th time out of 8 races, is going to win here in France. Billy Smith's going to follow him home.
Kept him honest. Close enough that if Girard were to make a mistake, Billy Smith would have been able to get there. Mark Schindele's going to get 3rd in class. Good for him.
You know, As we take a look at Simonic, we'll want to take a look at Darling after our leader in the GTE finishes, because I see Darling on 10 laps of a stint, which we saw the leaders could not do. So I kind of wonder if he's going to get to that checkered flag. But checkered flag is waiting now for the number 250. Simonic seems like he cannot be stopped. Jeffrey Ooms, the Mantra, who looked like he could have stopped him today, ran into trouble. So Alex Simonic takes yet another win.
But again, Stephen McGarvey doing what he does. Going to get second. Sorry, Ooms is going to get second.
Yeah, McGarvey gets a nice third, but poor Bradley Haley with a fourth. There you see him coming across the line. Now, what about Paul Darling? Boy, some fuel saving for the 155 in 5th place. He's trying so hard to get to the line that we think that he's sputtering. I think he's got it. He has definitely got it. Look at that. 10 laps on a stint. Way to go, Paul Darling. 11, technically, since he finishes this one. Woo! That's something.
That's far enough.
That is going to be all of our cars crossing the line. We'll take a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing Channel. We'll come back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews, and stick around because on screen you're going to see all the upcoming races here on the GSRC. Welcome back to Le Mans. We just watched round 8 here of the Autobahn Motorcar Group Sports Car Challenge, and your winner overall was Cy Andra. Played it beautifully. Dennis Savretic, who started right next to him because Cy was on pole, he finished behind him in second where he started. Mike Young did not. He started from 6th, and a little bit of luck came his way, but still, you got to commend a guy who can save fuel to do one less stop than everybody else and finish in 3rd. Jason DeVries probably could have had him, but his own mistake cost him. He went from 3rd on the grid to 4th. Then Robert Tinsey finishes in 5th today with Brandon Guardacia, who took a penalty in the pits for a bad entry, finishing in 6th. The last of our LMP1 cars to finish the race one lap down, Lionel Duprat all by his lonesome in 7th. Bill?
There were 13 LMP2s to start the race. Le Mans claimed 8 of them, leaving just 5 to finish. Jason Girard comes ahead of Billy Smith. The final podium spot, a great run from Mark Schindel. Ross Booth and David Sockrider round out the top 5. Joe?
Then we had quite a few finishers in the GTE category. Alex Simonek came away with yet another win, and Jeffrey Ooms just can't seem to do anything to stop the bleeding. He finishes second in that class. Third goes to Stephen McGarvey, who, like his brother, is proving very consistent. Fourth goes to Bradley Haley, just off the podium. He ran into multiple problems today. Paul Darling, who has some incredible fuel-saving skills. We'll have to talk to him about that one. He finished fifth in his class. Sixth goes to Dean Mole, and seventh to Ryan Huff. Then you go back to eighth, and it's Dave Hill with Dallas Pataska in ninth. In the top 10 in the GTEs, rounded out by Paul Lindsay. Leif Peterson finishes in 11th with Emmanuel Ejere in 12th, Sheldon Woloshin 13th, and Dale Green in 14th. Robert Sklenka finishes 15th in his class, with Mark Godrowski following him home in 16th, Matt Owen 17th, and Christopher Sherburne in 17th. Bill?
And then three classes for the remainder of the field. People who have ran into trouble: Sean Reese, Robert Consenyan, Chris Pence, Carter Kundinger, Daniel Gralty, James Stacy, the Big Cheese, John Ulmer came home 37th overall, Tim McLeish behind him, Sheldon Rosenbaum, Giuliano Romagnolo in 40th position overall, Samuel Scott, Alex Magic Ellis back there in 42nd, Kevin Santana. Scott McGarvey is the last car out there of the drivers who actually gridded up. Joe?
And we have our winner ready to talk to us, Cy Andra, who broke his duck last race, and this time he made it a double. Cy, you've swung your luck around, and now it seems momentum's in your favor.
I am so happy that I didn't bottle that race. I was all nerves. I was a bundle of nerves on that start, because I knew I had the pace. I just needed to execute, and luckily I did. There were a couple of close calls in there, but I think I executed well, and now I think I'm going to bring the fight to Jason.
It looks like you certainly can, especially with his fourth place today. It is obviously a little bit late for you, seeing you hail from New England. Do you have anything to get up for tomorrow? Were you bothered at all by the 2-hour length today?
Not at all. I don't have class until 3 tomorrow, so I'm sleeping in.
I don't blame you. You said that there was a couple scares. Do you count Mike Young's alternate strategy as a scare, or were you confident that his one less pit stop wouldn't be a worry?
Honestly, it sent me for a panic the first time I pitted and I came out and I saw him blowing by. I was confused. Well, what's going on? Where is he coming from? And then I realized what he was trying to do, and I figured that if I was right behind him when he was pitting, I would cycle out in front of him at the last stop because I was splashing and dashing. So I was a little bit calm, but I knew I had to stay on my toes to stay ahead of him.
And stay ahead you did. Second win. Hopefully we will see you in 2 weeks' time when we go to Imola over in Italy. Congratulations, sir.
Thanks, Joe.
That was Cy Andra who took the win. Bill has the winner in the GTEs. Alex Simonek has joined him.
Alex, a 2-hour race, you never know what's going to happen. It looked like Jeffrey Ohms was going to drive away with this thing, then all of a sudden, you're right there with him.
Yeah, as soon as I got the first slowdown, like on lap 3 or whatever, and I got a few consecutive slowdowns after that, I just realized that the race was going to be over. But throughout the first stint, I knew that if you go 10 laps and then 9 laps after the first stint, you'll be pretty good for the race. And Jeff was just out there by himself pushing, so he only did 9 laps on the first stint, which meant that I could take some tires in the second and third stint and still catch him via pit stops.
When you're trying to figure out pit strategy, I don't know how you do it, because it kind of all depends on where you are in relationship with the LMP1 leader. Was there ever a thought that, gee, maybe if I'm slow enough, they might be able to go around me, I won't have to go this extra lap?
That's what I was thinking, but my crew chief, Matty Kaidasoja, was saying, no, just keep going, because I saw Bradley go back, was back about a minute, and I was thinking maybe if Cy passed him, then it would be the last lap for him, and he would have to not take an extra 7 liters of fuel. But yeah, for the first 2 pit stops, you just put in full fuel, and then for the first stop, we put full tires, and then next stop, we put 3 tires on. And then obviously for the last stop, we put no tires on. So it really worked out there, and I really need to thank Matthew for that.
A 3-tire stop. That's faster than a 4-tire because they do them one at a time, I'm assuming?
Yeah. For the first stop, when we took 4 tires, it left me in the air for about 3 seconds after the fuel was in. And with the 3-tire stop, because we only were suffering about right turn damage in terms of lap time wise, we only took 3 tires, and it lined up perfectly with our fuel. As soon as the fuel's done, it will just drop us down, and then we'll be able to go.
Okay, I gotta help. I gotta follow up. So which tire stays on?
Left front. Actually, no, right front.
Right front stays on. Okay,
Yeah.
that makes sense. Hey, well, it worked. A 3-tire stop. That's a new one. Hey, congratulations. Way to go.
Thank you very much.
Alex Simonic. I love learning stuff, Joe.
That is one of the more bizarre strategies I've ever heard of. It obviously did work. So everybody take note of that one. Another quick note before we get to Mark Schindel about Simonic. He, up until this race, won every other race. This is the first time that he did a back-to-back win. So let's go to Mark Schindel, who managed to get a podium in the LMP2 class. Mark, some of that seemed to be just plain attrition in your favor today.
Definitely. Well, I got to apologize to Scott off the start. There was some net code because I didn't get any damage from that. I know I dove it a little late, but I thought I could go for it.
Well, obviously you did recover and make it back into this race. This seemed like traffic wasn't as big of an issue, which was to be expected with the size of the track. But we saw a number of drivers seem to have problems in a few places with communication. Is it just due to the difference in braking zones between the 3 classes, or what were most of the problems that you saw because of?
Some of what I saw was just people would move erratically. So you come into the brake zone where you're anticipating they're going to stay in one spot, and they would just move over. But the braking, when you're even, there's not a huge difference.
So you're currently coming into this race 5th in the championship, and you were only 9 points behind Ross Booth, with you finishing ahead of him. Are you aiming to try and overtake him before all is said and done?
Definitely. There's a little inter-team battle with TMC. We'll see what happens, but I'm hoping to overhaul him by the end of.
Speaking of which, we had a question. What exactly does TMC stand for? And remember, we're live on air, so if it's anything vulgar.
No. It's the Toronto Mustang Club. I technically don't live in Canada, but I race for the Canadian.
Well, glad to see that you're representing them well, getting them a podium. And again, congratulations on that 3rd place today.
Thanks so much.
That was Mark Schindel, 3rd place in the LMP2s. Bill, we were both wrong on that one. So
You were closer than me, though, but that's good.
Yeah. I remembered that once he said it, because I saw them discuss it in the forums a long time ago. We've covered them for so many seasons. It's been a while. We can't remember everything. So we're going to close up before we forget this race. And a big thank you goes out to John Ulmer and all of the guys behind the scenes that help organize these races and make them happen. And of course, thank you to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast. You can see those listed on your screen. Additional thanks go to Eric Ekholm and June Lalonde, who provide our wonderful music. See the screen for how to get a hold of more of their great work. Thanks to the team today, Bill, Taylor, Sean, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com. We're also on social media. Check us out on Twitter at GSR Channel, Facebook at Global Sim Racing Channel, and Instagram at GSRC_Graham. If you head on over to our YouTube page, there's a big red button that says subscribe. If you hit that, you won't miss a moment here on the Global Sim Racing Channel. As I mentioned before, we're going to Imola. That'll be Monday, December 3rd. That'll be 9:15 p.m. Eastern. And I think I'm wrong. That is not 2 weeks from now. They're taking a break for Thanksgiving, I believe, on that one. Yes, December 3rd confirmed on that. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out. Mark them down on your calendar. However, until next time, race clean, race hard. See you on the track.